Welcome everybody to our April 10th, 2025. This is our regular council meeting. It is the 145th annual council meeting this evening. Bienvenue tout le monde. Welcome to people watching online as well. If you have questions, there's always a place to ask questions online as well. So we're going to start our meeting tonight with the public hearing part. Council has received an application for a map amendment to the land use bylaw to rezone the property at 1838 and 1842 Camoes Hill Road, PID 902222068, Little River Harbor, from the coastal community zone to the coastal community industrial zone to allow for the development of a new storage and heavy equipment repair shop. So this is the public hearing portion. Does anybody have any questions for Renee, who is here this evening, about that? Anybody on council that has any questions? We don't have any members of the public here unless you guys have questions for him. Okay. Did you want to say anything, Renee? Okay. Go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, we did have an additional open house on March 12th at Camoes Hill Community Center. There was 5 people that attended, and it was well received. There's no complaints. They were just curious to see what was the open house for. It's basically just proposed rezoning that consists with municipal planning strategy. It doesn't require any amendments to the policy. Property is situated adjacent our industrial marine related uses. There's going back to the community hall was open 4 to 7, and there was just the 5 residents. Other than that, there's not much else to add. There's no comments, or everything was positive.
Okay, thank you. So no questions from council, no questions here. So our public hearing portion is closed for right now. Thank you for that, Renee. So we will call the meeting to order. No regrets, everybody's here this evening. Number 2 on the agenda, we have, as always, our invitation to stand and move. Number 3, we have the approval of the agenda. Any additions to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, can we have a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Bourque. Any questions on that? Nope. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. Any conflicts of interest to declare this evening? Remember, you can declare conflict at any time on any item on the agenda as well. Okay, seeing none, we will move on. Number 4, we have a presentation this evening. Youth Wellbeing Network. We have Denise Vacon is here to do a presentation for us.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the opportunity to address council and update you on what's happening with the Youth Wellbeing Network. There we're on. Sorry.
There you go. Perfect.
Thank you. We've got some slide things happening, so we'll move through as well as we can. And so, thanks. I do have a voice issue, so I do apologize for that. Pneumonia 6 weeks ago, lost my voice. It won't come back. So I apologize, but bear with me. So youth well-being. Back in May of 2023, the community, folks, service providers who were interested in youth well-being came together for a community conversation. There were members of this council who were present at that day. We hosted a conversation where we had 50 youth, 80 service providers come together to look at youth well-being across 8 domains. And those domains are represented on that circle: relationships, mental wellness, learning and growing, community, purpose, places and spaces, safety, and healthy living. And so at that session, we were able to really start trying to figure out what's going on with youth in our community and what are some of the things that they are saying about being in our community, and what are some of the things that would help them across those 8 domains. So as a result of that community conversation, and you have the link to this report, we generated a significant report on youth well-being across these 8 domains. And it's organized in a way where if you're interested in a particular domain, there's an entire section on that domain, and you can see the content of the comments that were made around each of those domains. And we address things like what kind of programs and activities would youth like to see? What are the services and organizational spaces that we need? What are the policies and rules that might impact their well-being? And then what are some things that we can do collectively together to have collective impact? And so the link for that complete report has been sent to you. But what Rochelle's looking at is the snapshot, which I'm sure you're probably more interested in because it's the Coles Notes version that gets you through it fairly quickly. And you can see an overview of what was said and proposed across those 8 domains, and then the priorities that were set by youth. And it's probably no surprise to you that things like mental wellness, having a youth voice, a youth hub or community hub, funding, sense of purpose, were all those were the kinds of things that surfaced to the top. And so after the August 2023 report, one of the pieces that we saw within the content of this report was a need for community to be coming together on youth issues and for service providers to really establish a means by which they could work better together, be more collaborative, and try to action the items that were indicated in the report. And so we established what's called now the Youth Wellbeing Network, and there are about 30 service providers who participate regularly. We meet monthly. And this tree piece is the summary of our goals and objectives. And at the back, you'll see that our goals and objectives really focus around 4 main sections: connecting with partners to engage youth to help amplify their voices, communicating and advocating to ensure young people have the necessary supports and resources to thrive, collaborating with others to reduce duplication and contribute to the effective use of our resources, and then to create opportunities to nurture resilience and support well-being. And so that network has been in, the first year was really around establishing those goals and objectives, establishing what we wanted to do and what we were going to focus on. And so this year, we've really been in the working mode of that plan. And we have a work plan developed that is focused on youth engagement. We were able to secure additional funding to offer teen takeover, so a big partnership with the Youth Wellbeing Network and Mariners on Main. Currently, there's approximately anywhere between 80 and 125 youth attending that programming in the evening at every other Friday at Mariners on Main, and we have service providers going in to make connections with youth. Because we know when youth get connected, establish relationships, then they're more apt to be able to access services and supports outside of that safe environment. So helping youth connect to community. So what have been some of the outcomes and ripple effects? Really, one big one is establishing a youth engagement plan and helping to connect school, youth, and community. And so helping to amplify some of those voices and being a vehicle and a place where that expertise is held, that the community can lean on, and that we can pull both sides of community and school together. And so really it is about creating integrated approaches, there being accountability, working collaboratively towards common goals. And then, so the really big and fun and exciting thing, which I'm here to talk about today, is that as a result of these collaborative efforts, we've secured over $2 million in funding for youth in our communities. The big announcement, which I'm sure you've heard, is the Integrated Youth Service announcement, where we'll have 6 full-time clinicians and money to renovate the old South Centennial School to create a youth hub, which was spoken heavily in this report and requested by youth. And so the youth hub, the clinicians will help us address mental health and addiction issues. But it's also meant to create opportunities for youth to have a sense of belonging, to engage in recreation, to form relationships, to have places in their community where they can connect and go to and get the supports they need, and also to access other services at that site at one place. It's not intended to replace existing services. It's intended to work together with those services to address gaps and expand supports. Not quite yet. Thank you. So the other piece to that is, so Integrated Youth Services has been announced. We are the 8th site. We don't know when funding will roll. We anticipate that there will be a couple sites opening this year. We're in the queue for funding. We'd hope that perhaps because we have a building that's ready, that we may have been able to start this April. We don't have confirmation yet that we can do that, so we expect it'll probably be next fiscal year. And then from there, it's going to take 9 months to do the renovation, and then between the last 9 to 12 months to hire staff and expect to be operational at the end of that first year. So whenever that funding flows, it's going to be another year before we're ready to see and actively engage and accept kids on a regular basis. So in the interim, Youth Wellbeing Network has been able to secure funding through the community mental health funds. And under that initiative, we're really using it as a bridge with Teen Takeover as these mini IYS pilots. So we're looking at helping to coordinate the actions of the Youth Wellbeing Network, that we're hiring somebody, we're in the process of hiring somebody to do some youth engagement, Agenda Gap, which is a mental health promotion activity, is taking place in schools across the Tri-County. And then we're looking to have activities happen on those alternate Fridays to Teen Takeover, so that every week youth have somewhere they can go to connect with community and establish relationships with trusted service providers and networks. And so we're also working on a helping tree with youth in mind. 211 is great. We're trying to kind of mix up some of these 211 pieces. The frustration youth are having is that you search for something and you get a Kentville link, or the Yarmouth link is buried. And they want something physical in their hands. And teachers and people who are not working with youth every day, they want something. When a youth confides in them and says, I need help with, I'm looking for, okay, where do I go, what do I do, and what's local? And so this helping tree is, the intent of that is to improve that. And Teen Takeover is funded through social inclusion funding. It's a partnership between Department of Community Services and Sport Nova Scotia, along with the network. So lots of investment happening for youth, and lots of engagement that's going to need to happen to make sure we get, that we're doing this right. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we're here ultimately today, is to kind of communicate with you around what do we feel youth need from you as council. And so in this plan, what we tried to do, so that folks wouldn't have to read everything, at the back end and in the summary, I've pulled out 2 of them, the decision maker one and the facilities one, because those impact council more than, say, schools or health. But every sector has a recommendations or considerations sheet, so that there are pieces there that as you're doing your work at council, that you're doing that with youth in mind. And youth, we know, are difficult to engage, not always easy to engage. And so, you know, knowing that the Youth Wellbeing Network is there as well to support your efforts is part of what we want to communicate here today. So we're here to support helping you engage with youth, amplifying their voices, and engaging in ways that matter, so that their community feels like a community where they belong, where they feel valued. And so some things that might come up are around transportation. Of course, that comes up a lot when we're thinking about integrated youth services. and the Youth Wellbeing Network. We've tossed around what are some opportunities here. Do we try to bring services out to, say, PEB and Drumlin? It's proving to be very difficult because then service providers need to close up shop where they're at. They don't have the staff necessarily to do those things. And so I think where we're headed really is around how do we bring youth to what's already happening? How do we remove some of the barriers? Is there the possibility for a late bus? There currently are some school-based policies that make it difficult for youth. They can't get on a different bus, even though there's a bus going to town. They're not supposed to get off at a different stop. And so how do we close up some of these transportation gaps? And maybe, work with Hope or work with other service providers to be able to transport youth on a regular-ish basis from our outer communities, so particularly Maple Grove, Drumlin, and PEB. And so that's part of some of the conversations that we'll be having. Active transportation plans come up, recreational services that meet youth needs. Argyle's actually, I think, done a really good job at trying to target some of those. And we presented to the Recreation Commission a year ago? Yeah, I think so. But the particular gap exists especially for youth 11 to 15. It's like nobody wants to touch those youth, and they really are at a delicate age because they're trying risky things, and if they're not involved or implicated, and they don't want to go to day camp anymore. They're done with that. And so, how do we figure that piece out? There's no easy answer. They're hard to engage. But we need to figure that piece out, and we're hoping that with the added funding that we'll be able to get to some of that. Your council is represented at the Substance Use Awareness Partnership. How substances appear in our community impact youth greatly, the culture we're creating through our policies. And things like supporting housing, basic income, food security policies. When you're doing those things support families, and when families are supported, youth are supported. So keeping that piece in mind. So from an integrated youth service perspective, we would ask that from a council perspective, be familiar with what's happening. We are going to be engaging community on what that needs to look like, what services should be there, and we want to hear from youth and parents and caregivers and community members across Yarmouth County and the Tri-County about what that needs to look like. It isn't a done deal. What we put in there is determined by what the community needs, and it's deliberately built that way. And then is there flexibility to direct resources as things come up within the hub in terms of recreation, transportation, and that late bus piece, or addressing some programming gaps as those are identified. So that ongoing communication as things are identified. And we would really appreciate at some point in time as this moves forward, having a representation from council be available to either sit on the Youth Wellbeing Network or be that link or connection as things are coming up. And it's within the Youth Wellbeing Network that integrated youth services will be implemented. And so having representation would be very beneficial. So really that's our main ask, is that, we have a point person that we can connect with as these things are developing and growing for our community. And as we identify opportunities and try to find ways to meaningfully engage with youth. So that's it in a nutshell. It's a lot of information, but.
Thank you, though. It's pretty exciting.
It's very exciting. We'd like to be getting at it right away, but, those funding pieces sometimes take
Right.
time, but it's committed and it's there.
Yeah.
And I think it will make a big difference for
Absolutely.
youth in our community.
Definitely. I
Yeah.
see Deputy Warden Sonia has a question.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you for what you do. I think it's a great program. I've said it many times here. In sports, for instance, youth, we've had trouble to milk councils, even our own back in the past. And it's got a lot better, and we're building a lot of facilities for our young people. But there's always some that don't go to these areas. And recently, in the past few years, they've started this new Kids Act stuff. And I always bring that up because there's like 500 enrollment.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. And these kids, make no mistake, they're highly skilled. I thought I was when I was playing ball, but they can do backflips and catch a ball while, you know. So there's a niche for almost everybody, and I'm glad you're there to help these kids. And I think council will, I know I will speak for council and say that, you know, you're sure doing a great job. And do you see any positive results beyond what you've just mentioned?
We're seeing lots of positive results, and that's part of what the Youth Wellbeing Network is hoping to do is to monitor some of those changes as time goes. So our first snapshot really was the May 23rd conversation. We did engage youth in a survey at that time across the 8 domains, and we engaged both youth and adults, and you'll see the results in each of the sections, and it looks like this. But what we typically see as the trend is that adults are saying that programs and services are actually doing a pretty good job at meeting the needs, and youth are saying, not so much. You're really missing the mark. And we were actually, I'm crunching the numbers last week, actually. We were able to re-administer the survey at YCMHS during their mental health day, and we're seeing a positive trend moving towards feeling more connected and feeling more supported. Still a long ways to go, but even some of the small changes that have happened, some of them as a result of the Youth Wellbeing Network, some of them just alongside, and some of it everybody being aware and doing pieces that they may not know are connected, but they are connected. So things like Teen Takeover, things where youth are able to connect to service providers, the mental health days, and the meeting the people in your neighborhood that are there to help you, so that when you need that help, you're not so scared to ask for it. And then things like our youth health center coordinators and resources within the school around health promotion and Schools Plus, and having those service providers better connected so that there's more communication about, okay, we're doing this part, this is a piece that's missing, who can fill that piece and start bridging that gap so that it's a little more seamless. It's not so hard. You can access some help no matter where you get into that system. So those parts are coming together, and we are seeing a positive shift towards that trend. And I will add that much of the data, those who are involved in sport, which sport is awesome and great, but there is a whole segment of kids who just aren't able, even with the funding and extra help, or have the desire to necessarily be involved competitively to that extent, but they have a need to try things and be active and engage in more casual ways with sport, but to look also at recreation more broadly in terms of the things we do just to have fun, which can be sport, it can be arts and crafts, it can be music, it can be a lot of things. And so how do we ensure that we're encompassing all of those things so that every youth can find a place where they can belong and feel valued and accepted and that they're contributing? And of course, that plays into sense of purpose, and it plays into sense of community, and it plays into, I feel good being here, and I want to stay here, and I want to, all of those things.
If I may? Sure. Just one more comment. The age group you mentioned, 11 to 15, that's the coming of age, and that's a problem, if you want to identify it as a problem, in sports, period.
It is.
Most kids, if they're going to leave sports, it's usually at that age, and they go on to,
Yes.
other form of stuff, so.
Yeah, and it's a time where they want to experiment and engage in riskier behaviors, and how do we support them to do some of those things in healthy ways, and provide opportunities? Because if we don't, The other outcome are those risky behaviors, alcohol, drugs, sexualized activities, things that typically we would prefer that youth are not kind of going down that particular path, which leads to other issues and problems as well. So much of the solution to that is creating healthy communities where youth can engage and feel connected. And that's the purpose of what we're aiming to accomplish, so that our communities can buffer. And things happen to youth regardless of socioeconomic status, drugs don't discriminate. Like, things happen regardless of, to how good your family is or has become. And we need communities that can support youth through those difficult times. That's what being resilient really is about. And it takes a community. And that's always been true. And it's still true. But youth don't always feel, they're telling us they don't feel connected to that community. And so we as the adults need to figure that out. It's not their job to figure it out. It's our job to create communities where they can thrive.
Thank you.
That's excellent. I always say that when you walk into a room of people you don't know, you want to feel connected. You
Yeah.
want to feel like you belong. That's how you feel, right? And this offers programming and spaces for them to make those
Yeah.
connections and get that sense of belonging. And that's what I like about this, because I've worked in schools for almost 30 years now, and that 11 to 15, and you talked about that's when they often come out of sport, but even more so for girls.
Yeah.
Girls completely, right? That's the
Yeah.
gap there. And providing opportunities, positive opportunities where they feel connected and feel
Yes.
like they belong are so, so important. So
Yeah.
that's why this work
Absolutely.
is really exciting.
And the 11 to 15 is a bit of a gap area in our community for services, but from an integrated youth service perspective, it's really, we're looking at 10 to 25. So having supports along that entire continuum is the intention. Yeah.
So when you talk about wanting a rep from council, like when do you
Yes.
want to know that? Because you said it might take some time to.
Well, it would be great. We'll be reconvening as a youth wellbeing network in the fall. That's kind of
Okay.
a good starting point. So, in September, when we start up, we'll be doing some planning meetings in May and June to really establish what our coordinator's going to do under the grant. And then we anticipate that IYS will start, we'll have a more solid indication of the timeline. And so, by September would be really great. If it's earlier, that's super too.
Okay.
Happy to.
Usually what we do is after a presentation,
Right.
we defer to the next
Yeah, that's
meeting to
fine.
make decisions. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that. And how often would you meet? Like, we like to know that,
Yeah,
those
so
kinds of things.
Absolutely. So there is a terms of reference that we can share as
Okay,
well.
perfect.
Currently, we've been meeting monthly because of the amount of work that has been needed to get done. And we anticipate that to be the case until IYS is in place. And then there are subcommittees and different pieces. Not everybody sits on subcommittees, but the commitment would be once a month. We usually meet 9:30 to noon, and there is an online option as well. But even if it's having somebody that we can connect with and maintain lines of communication, and we understand there's busy schedules as well, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments from council? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. It was an
Thank you.
excellent presentation. We appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ella.
Thanks. Okay, next on our agenda, number 5, appointment of officers. We're going to defer that until the April 24th meeting. Number 6, the adoption of minutes. We have the minutes from our March 20th meeting, regular council meeting minutes. Councillor Foster.
Yes. These minutes are very wordy,
Yeah.
because there was a lot of people that spoke that evening. And I feel that the minutes did an excellent job of capturing what happened. But there are a few errors in the minutes, minor things that need to be corrected, I believe, before we can adopt them.
Okay.
For example, second paragraph where Councillor Madden speaks in the preamble before presenting his motion. He says he spoke to former Warden Danny Muse about the municipality's involvement in the agricultural movement. And I believe it should be aquaculture. And that occurs at a few other places in the minutes. For example, fifth line, Councillor Madden expressed confusion over the municipality's involvement in agriculture. Again, should be aquaculture. And then Councillor Madden raised concerns with DFO about swimmers in Abrams River. I think he probably means DFA. I don't remember word for word what was said, but I would assume that Councillor Madden would be the one to answer that. I would think that he spoke to DFA rather than DFO. And then he says that the municipality had conducted water testing for agriculture businesses in the area. Again, it should be aquaculture, I would think. And then here, believe that DFO. Okay, so then he makes reference that he believed that DFO was already aware of the issue with regard to water quality, and I don't think he means DFO in that context. And there's reference to former mayor of HRM, John Savage. It's actually should be Mike Savage, his son. John Savage was a former mayor of Dartmouth and premier of Nova Scotia. Pardon? Yeah. And this is very minor, but Councillor Madden said he represented over 300 people. I think it's more like 800. But anyways, just a minor thing.
Okay.
When Plymouth resident Mike Scott made his presentation, he said that the initial proposals for aquaculture sites on the Tusket River were not submitted to Fisheries and Oceans. Again, I think it's probably DFA. And page 4 of 10, first line, third paragraph, Madden, as a business owner in an agricultural area. Now, I'm quite sure you can grow potatoes and a few basic vegetables in Eelbrook and Tusket, but again, I think what he's referring to is aquaculture.
Absolutely.
And this is probably just the computer making that error, because I've typed stuff on the computer, and sometimes the computer will insert a similar spelled word, thinking, and maybe I misspelled the original word. But I just thought,
Yep.
I read the minutes,
Absolutely.
I study, and I just thought that this needed to be brought to somebody's attention before we can actually approve the minutes.
Definitely. Thank you, Councillor Foster. Any other corrections for the minutes? Okay, with the corrections that were mentioned? Yep, that's, oh, sorry,
Yeah, that's okay.
I didn't notice.
I just wanted to clarify, I think 99% of those changes are accurate pickups of all aquaculture. There was no agriculture discussion, and I believe you're correct. The only reference to DFO would be potentially navigation, and I don't think that was the discussion.
I don't think
So it
either.
is supposed to say DFA. I'm quite certain of that. We will double check the minutes to make sure that we get it.
Yeah.
So as the recorder and ultimately myself responsible, if somebody says it wrong in a speech, we will put what they say.
Right,
But in most, if not 99% of those instances, those are typographic errors, and there's no way that they could
Right.
have been said. So
Right.
I leave you with a couple of choices. We can make, because there's quite a few changes that he's suggested here. If you're comfortable approving the minutes as amended or as suggested by Mr. Foster, and if the council is okay with that, then in the absence of, to make it clear as day, I think a motion
Okay.
as amended would be in order.
Okay.
Alternatively, you can defer that and have us recreate and you could approve the modified minutes. It's entirely up to you as council.
Okay,
And I'm assuming it refers entirely to the March 20th
Yes.
meeting
Yes,
and not the virtual
yes.
meeting.
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct. I didn't know quite how to handle that because the minutes were already published 5 days before this meeting or put on the website.
You're absolutely correct. So, but the minutes do not become an official document of council until council sees it at the agenda. So if this happens again, and I
Yes.
see that you're a very diligent reader, we have a couple of options. If you wish to bring it up outside of the council meeting and that we see that as something that needs to change, we will certainly do that in advance of the meeting on behalf
Okay.
of all of you. So you can do that, or you can wait to this day. It is entirely up to you. If we believe that it is a typographical error, we will certainly make that known, and you'll
And-
see the revised version for the meeting.
And I'm quite sure that that's all it is. It's a typographical error, the computer, you're typing aquaculture, the word agriculture pops up automatically.
It's
Thinking
entirely
that's what you
possible,
mean.
sir. It is entirely possible.
It's happened to me.
Yeah.
That
Thank-
similar type of thing has happened to me.
So it's up to
Okay.
you as council, what you wish to do.
Deputy Warden.
So, thank you. As our CEO was talking, I had similar thoughts of deferring this and making sure that we go over the minutes and they're done properly rather than make a motion with the amendments, because there's so many, as you said, that it should probably be verified and checked and made sure that the minutes are proper. Thank you.
Okay, so you're willing to make that a motion?
Yes.
Okay. So our deputy warden has moved that we defer the adoption of the minutes for our March 20th meeting until the corrections have been made and that we see them again at our next meeting. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Okay, seconded by Councillor Surratt. Any other questions or comments on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Thank you. March 27th, 2025, we had a special virtual council meeting, and the minutes are attached. Were there any corrections to those minutes? Any errors, omissions? Okay, seeing none, those minutes are approved as presented. Number 7, we have recognizing Argyle. We have, do we have anybody who would like to make any council announcement? We have Councillor Surratt.
Hi, I just wanted to say that last night I attended the Community Health Board plan. They introduced their new plan. The plan is dated from 2025 to 2029. It's the Community Health Boards, and they've identified 4 pillars: access to basic needs, mental health, community, environment, and natural environment and climate change. Also, last night, there were presentations on how they spent their wellness funds in 2024. So we had an opportunity to hear about some awesome, amazing projects that happened and are still happening. They're using their funds continuously. So around food security, around inclusion, around intergenerational events that happened, as well as connecting people. So it's some really, really interesting and vital pieces to our community. There was 2 presentations from the Municipality of Argyle, the Musée Acadien, as well as the West Ponico Golf Course, and so they were able to talk about some of the events that they did, so kudos to them. As well as there was an announcement that they have wellness funds again, and the wellness funds for this upcoming year, the applications finish on April 30th. So if people are interested in Community Health Board application funds until April 30th.
Thank you. Councillor Madden.
Thank you, Madam Warden. At this time, I'd like to recognize Brian Surratt of Saint-Anne-du-Ruisseau. He's the son of Andre and Marina. Bryson competed in the Nova Scotia skills competition and the precision machining division. He has won the gold medal in 2024 and 2025 for Nova Scotia. Also in 2024, he took gold at the national level in Quebec. and soon to go to Saskatchewan to represent us at the end of May. I'd like to congratulate him and wish him good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Digdon.
Thank you. Last Sunday afternoon, attended a music concert at the St. Peter's Roman Catholic Church in Middle West Pubnico. It was put on by local musicians from the Paroisse Notre Dame de l'Assomption. It was an open concert for everyone. It was well attended. It was a very good concert. And the people that put it together, the musicians and all that, did a great job. We're hoping to see more of them sometime in the future, more concerts. And also, a couple of weeks ago, there was a cleanup down at the ball field in Lower West Pubnico. The dog owners, the responsible dog owners, have been using it for the last 6 months or so as a dog park and a place to run their dogs. And they felt as though with the ball season starting, that they wanted to go down there, give it a once, twice, 3 times over, make sure everything was cleaned up, picked up, all the garbage that was removed from the ball field and from the dugouts. And they'd like to say thank you to everyone for them being able to use that facility over the winter. And they do know now that it is to be a ball park for the summer, and see what fall brings, or maybe be looking at possibly a dog park in the area. And Les Nouveaux Horizons de la Bernie would like to thank the municipality for the $700 check that they received, community grant. And I had a email this afternoon hoping that the veterans banners will be going again this year. Hopefully that program will be going. That is between the municipality and your 2 local legions. So once I have a little more information on that, I'll pass it along and we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Bork.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to thank Gordon and Julie Nickerson. They went to the carpool in Pumlico Head, and they cleaned up, and they picked up, I think, around 13, 16 bags full of garbage. And they said there were still more, and there was mattresses, there was headboards, and thanks to Waste Management, Richie Nickerson came down, picked up the big items, and the curbside picked up the rest with some stickers, especially for those garbage bags. So thanks to them just doing that on their own, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. Agree. I want to mention the Patchwork Pals in Eelbrook. So they are a quilting group who get together weekly, every Wednesday. They've invited me. I told them when I retire, yes, but right now I just don't have the time. But I do go visit them every once in a while. They will invite me, and they had their quilting day. It's amazing. They're a well-oiled machine. They are set up. They each have a job, and they make quilts. And what I love about the organization is that they make quilts for other organizations to sell tickets on. So they'll make a quilt, they'll donate it to an organization so that your organization can sell tickets on it and make money. I just think it's amazing, and I really enjoy my visits when I go there to see them. So just wanted to mention that. Councillor Digdon?
Thank you. If I can just tag on to what you were saying, as far as them being a quilting group, they are so much more than a quilting group. And by what I mean by that, they're an organization that sticks together very much. So they help their participants with mental health and getting over the loss of loved ones, because it's a lot of females that are involved in this group, and they're there for each other through thick and thin. So they're a great organization.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, next we have number 8, Warden's report. So my report is attached. Any questions on that? Just the different committees. I try to give a quick snippet of kind of what went on at the meetings. Number 9, we have our committee reports, the Argyle Recreation Commission. The minutes are attached. Number 10, 7-day notice. So we do have a policy under 7-day notice. It is the salary administration policy, so it was circulated ahead. Any questions on that? This is just the 7-day notice, so it's to give you time to look through it, find comments if you have any comments, because it will come back to another agenda. Okay? Number 11, for decision and discussion. 11A, we have our second reading of bylaw 23, heritage property. So this is the bylaw, which we used to have a heritage property group that would deem which properties became heritage properties, and that responsibility has now been shifted onto the PAC. So we've looked at this already, and you see there are some deletions to the policy and some additions to the policy. So 4A and 4B explain that the Planning Advisory Committee shall act as the Heritage Advisory Committee for the municipality, and membership and terms and procedures as outlined in Policy C35, Planning Advisory Committee shall be the guiding principle of the Heritage Advisory Committee. So we've looked at this. I think it's pretty straightforward. Is anybody willing to make a motion to approve the second reading of this policy? Moved by Councillor Bourque, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Questions or comments on that? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. B, we have Starlight Committee member. So a couple weeks ago at our last meeting, we had a presentation it was Tim Doucette who came to give a presentation on the Starlight Observatory. They have a committee. He was looking for a committee member. I actually reached out because remember I had asked, when do they meet? How often do they meet? And he did tell me that they meet every 2 months, second Tuesday of every second month, 7 o'clock, Zoom, and the next meeting is in May. Is there anybody who is interested in becoming a member of the Starlight Committee? Have you had, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Surratt.
Thank you. Yes, I'm actually interested. I don't know if anybody else is, but
Okay.
I'm quite interested in that committee.
Okay. So can we have a motion? Somebody willing to make a motion? Okay, so it's moved by Councillor Madden that we accept Councillor Surratt as the member of the Starlight Committee, and seconded by Councillor Foster. Any questions or comments on that? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Thank you for accepting that. Next, we have FOIPOP. So this is one that I put on the agenda. I put this on the agenda because we are having a lot of questions around FOIPOP that are coming forward. And I think that it's important that we clarify for our constituents what FOIPOP is, because it is something new even for us as a municipality. It wasn't something that we had a lot of experience around. And there have been questions, and we're seeing comments on Facebook about FOIPOP. And I even have people saying, what is FOIPOP? I don't know if you guys are getting it. What is FOIPOP? So I just kind of listed a few things that I would like, that this is basically information for the public. I'm not necessarily looking for a motion tonight. I just want to, although we may make a motion, we talked about there might be a motion to come out of this. But what is FOIPOP? What does it stand for? I would like to have some clarity around how does someone make a FOIPOP request? So let's start with what is FOIPOP. So I'm going to put our CAO on the spot and have him answer our questions around FOIPOP. So can you explain, first of all, what is FOIPOP?
Do my best, Madam Chair. So FOIPOP is well, it doesn't sound like a word. It's actually short
Great.
for Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy. So I think that there's two elements to this. So first of all, this is provincial legislation. The province first implemented it for themselves and basically said that citizens, residents, taxpayers have the right to know information about the comings and goings of provincial departments. And it then got expanded into municipal government and other public service bodies. The Municipal Government Act is our regulating body that says what we must do under FOIPOP, Part 20 of the MGA for those that are interested. And so freedom of information means that
That's the FOI.
That's the FOI. Freedom of information is the FOI. And what that means is that anybody, citizens, whatever, who had a question or wanted to receive information on a topic, can make a request. And that request is, and I'll use an illustration, it's often, you know, what were the emails between, you know, X and Y on this particular issue for a particular period of time. And so, first of all, the responsibility of the municipality is to make sure that they can in fact answer that question. Sometimes it's beyond their legislation, and sometimes it's, so they have to ensure that it fits within the, within the law. There's a second component to that. So I think a lot of people get the FOI more than they get the POP. And so the POP is actually, from our perspective, perhaps not from the perspective of the person asking, but from the person giving the information, the POP is more important, and that's the protection of privacy. And you can all appreciate as counselors or as citizens how you may have private information that you wish not to disclose to anyone. A perfect illustration of that is Nova Scotia Health Authority. They have a lot of private information around health, and none of that stuff ever gets disclosed, and if it ever got leaked, it was always a big deal, and I think we've seen that happen in the past. So the role is to, if there is a request for information, let's say for emails, which is the most common request, the process is to generate a report that says how many emails fit that criteria, and then we go back to the citizen who is requesting, and we say, these are how many emails or how much work is required. And I won't say there's a fee per email. There is a rule of thumb around how fees are to be charged to third-party residents. So there's always a $5 fee for the initial request. And depending on how complex that request is, it could stay there, or it could be a lot larger. Every citizen will get 2 hours of free services from any municipality who was asked a question. They get 2 hours for free. The work around this, I want to just take a moment to talk about the work. It's not just printing emails,
That's what I wanted to
right?
ask you.
Okay, so maybe I'm
no,
anticipating
that
because I
was-
read your
yeah.
request. So it's not just printing out information. It's the redaction of the information, making sure there is nothing in there that breaches the privacy of that person. Also, it has to fit the criteria. So if I want all emails between Councillor Boudreau and Councillor LeBlanc, and for some reason the computer spits out an email between Councillor Foster and Councillor Boudreau, well, that doesn't actually fit the criteria of the request. All these things to say that there's quite an analysis that is required. Up until about 2 months ago, all that work was done by staff. But recently, I think council I know council made a motion to enable us to engage a third party. That's helped us tremendously, though it's a lot more expensive. It's helped us tremendously because the experience is there more so than it would be internally, because this is what they do, right? So that's what it stands for, and how somebody can make a FOIPOP request, I
Yep,
think, is the
that's my
one.
next. How does somebody make a FOIPOP request?
We have accepted emails that have come in requesting officially. We're moving into a more formal request. There are forms that are required, only because it helps the person asking ask the right questions. Sometimes people may ask something that isn't specific enough. So the whole idea of the form is certainly not to make it any more difficult. It's actually to give people more information to do it more properly. I almost neglected to mention that in times of FOIPOP requests, when there's a big one, usually what happens is the municipality says, okay, this is gonna cost a lot of money, and we're not sure you wanna do that. So let's talk about adjusting the scope of the request. This is a very common thing that happens. So if somebody wants to see all emails between Councillor Boudreau and Foster between 2020 and 2025, let's say there's 1,000 emails, that's a lot, but maybe they're interested in a particular discussion. So then we can talk about, okay, what is it that you're looking for? And maybe we can hone that a little bit more specifically, because then we can do keyword searches around the topic.
So somebody has to read, let's say a FOIPOP request came in and it showed that there were 1,000 emails. Somebody has to go through every single one of those emails to ensure that that person, that the privacy, the POP part, I guess.
Yes.
Protection of privacy.
Yes.
Is actually enforced. So to me,
Correct.
it sounds like that would be the part that takes a long time.
It does, and it really, there are a number of, the privacy is defined in the act. So sometimes it could be like legal privilege, it could be your personal email address, it could be that simple, or it could be things around a competition, where if there's a bid or something, or an information that would maybe result in somebody getting information that they shouldn't, that information is typically protected if it's still ongoing. Obviously, if it was over, then it wouldn't be private anymore. So yeah, all that stuff has to go through. And so what happens after we do that with our consultant, we have the right, and we've been doing this, to transmit these emails to a third party. So if the request is between the province and us, the province could receive a list of emails from us saying, you best read this to make sure that we got the privacy bit settled, so that we're not actually disclosing something that we shouldn't. So we have, up to this point, our practice is to ask the third party, though I will say that every situation is slightly different. Sometimes the ask is so simple that you wouldn't bother somebody with that request. It is not a necessary thing to do. However, it is, in order to protect the privacy, something that we have done. And so that actually extends the amount of time that a request may take. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to kind of summarize the next few. So you already talked about it's a $5. If I want to request a FOIPOP, I pay a $5 service charge, I guess, and then the fees associated with the FOIPOP. So an estimation is made of how long it's going to take to complete the FOIPOP. And did you say it was an hourly rate? Is that what you said? 2 hours are free, the first 2 hours are free, and then what is the rate that is charged?
The rate that's charged is $30 an hour, so it doesn't matter what we pay for that. The applicant will pay $30 an hour. So if it costs us $140 an hour, which it does, the difference would be, the only amount that would be paid by the resident in question would be the $30 an hour.
Okay. Can a resident request that those fees are waived?
They certainly can.
Okay, so what's the process there? So if I come in and you tell me it's going to cost me $3,000 and you say, okay, adjust your scope, and I say, well, no, this is what I want, but I don't want to pay the $3,000. What's the next step?
Typically, they give us a reason why the fees ought to be waived. Sometimes it's financial. The financial means might be a reason. It could be that the information that is being collected is in the greater interest, meaning oftentimes this comes out of media. So when media does like a FOIPOP request, they might be looking for information across all Nova Scotia, all provincial governments on a particular item. I've actually seen that before, and they typically ask for the fee to be waived, because it's for like a report that they're doing on. So that may or may not be accepted. It depends on whether it hits the criteria, but they can request that the fee be waived, and
If the fee's waived, who pays for it?
the taxpayers would.
Okay.
So there would be no fee to the applicant, but if the fee was waived, then it would mean that.
So a
that we would absorb it.
$3,000 FOIPOP fee could be paid by the taxpayer. So everybody's paying for one person who requests the FOIPOP.
That's correct. Well, I think that, more accurately speaking, is that if it costs $140 an hour to do something, and the fee is 30, and that's an acceptable fee whether it's waived or not, then the difference is paid for by the taxpayer.
Regardless. That's what's happening now every single time.
Every time that a request is being made, that the fee is being negotiated and all that, there is a gap between the cost to do it and the recovery from the applicant.
Okay. Okay. Why is information redacted? I see that a lot. Can you, I know you've kind of explained that already.
Yeah, so what we typically do is if, let's say, if a request of an email between myself and a third party is requested, and let's say somebody from the third party outside is copied on that request, oftentimes that information, that's not part of the request, nor is it information that we would disclose. So that third party, let's say it was, I don't know, Hubert Pache. I'm just pointing at where he worked for many, many years. So it would not show that that person was part of that because they're not part of the request, nor is it appropriate for us to disclose email addresses, et cetera. Anything personal that would have to do with, let's say, civic addresses, we would redact. Oftentimes, we would redact or eliminate duplicate emails. There's no sense going through email after email after email. So you might see in certain instances where there's a redaction of a certain email was because it was actually showed on another page. All of that information is available to the applicant. So if the applicant's like, why did you redact this? We are obligated to tell them why, not what was redacted, but why it was redacted. And they of course, if they disagree with that, or if they disagree with any of the decisions that we make here, they have the right to complain to the, or escalate it to the Office of Privacy Commission, who works for both provincial and municipal government. They are a third-party body that basically says, okay, these are the rules, this is our interpretation, you're either right or wrong, or figure it out. Oftentimes, they'll say, figure it out, especially if there's a fee dispute.
Right, okay. So for our municipality, I mean, we don't have, FOIPOP is new for us. So, I mean, it's not new, but it wasn't something that was a huge deal for us before. Who has been administering, like, who's been in charge of FOIPOP at our municipality?
Well, it says in the law that the CAO is responsible unless he's designated it. When Scott Surratt was employed with us full-time, he was designated as FOIPOP administrator. FOIPOP isn't new, but the amount of requests that
Right.
we're getting
Yes.
certainly is new. And so he undertook to do the administrator role. We did not have too many requests, so there wasn't too much formalized training. It was informal training. When he went on leave, it returned to me for a period of time. And we made an internal decision that we would shift to our Director of Operations, who is now, well, has to be a motion.
Yes.
But we want to designate him as the FOIPOP administrator. He's already enrolled in courses and is going to upgrade himself accordingly, and has been in contact with all the third-party organizations that we need in order to get ourselves spruced up on the legislation. Something that I would have done, but I think he's really taking more formalized courses, right? Or will do that if the council appoints him, which I obviously would recommend.
So this is on top of his regular job?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see. I saw that the municipality had said that FOIPOP, so once a FOIPOP request is complete, it gets shared on the website?
It does.
Okay. There's a spot on our website?
Yes, we certainly, when you go on the website and you go under council, you'll see FOIPOP, and it releases all of the FOIPOPs that were released. So all of the released FOIPOPs are shown there. Anybody, because it's been paid already and everything's been done, anybody has the right to go and look at that information. Whether they're interested in it or not, they can do so. I will be very clear, the requester, the person, the applicant, is not disclosed. The result is disclosed, so we don't talk about who asked.
Right. Can we get a number of roughly how many FOIPOPs we've had recently?
I had to check, because that's been moving. We believe that over the course of, let's say, June 24 to now, there are 18 FOIPOP requests. Some are still outstanding, some haven't been completed. I would say there's, I think, I'd have to double check on how many are outstanding, because that's a moving number, but I would say it's under 10 are outstanding.
Okay.
Our objective is to speed up the result so that people get the information faster. So we're focusing on that. But
Okay.
there's, I think it's the answer is 7 or 8 outstanding right now.
And am I allowed to ask, like, the nature? Like, is it what is the nature of these FOIPOP requests?
100% of the FOIPOP requests have been related to ADA.
Okay, I was kind of curious about that. So I guess thank you for entertaining all of my questions. For me, I guess I kind of wanted to know, how is this going to affect our budget? So I know we're looking, it's soon budget season, and we're looking at lots of things are costing much more than we had anticipated. Policing, for example, is one of the things. Our garbage collection is more expensive. What, I guess, bottom line, do we have an indication of what we've spent on FOIPOP up until now, and how will this impact our budget, so when we have our budget deliberations? I think it's important that our public, that our constituents know this, because I know I've been asked the question, so I feel like our residents need to know the effects of this on our budget.
Sure. I mean, I will start by saying that the impact on the budget is a little, it's still a bit of a moving target, because we don't know how many requests will come in, right? So there's some uncertainty around that. I'll say that this is the first year that we're going to budget for FOIPOP specifically. Typically, what we would have done in the past was the cost would have simply, well, I say simply, would have been absorbed under the salary of the person that's doing the work. So if the salary was XY for the director, there's no additional cost that somebody would see extra. Where there is a cost is the opportunity cost. And so if somebody is taking 30 out of 40 hours of the week doing this, then they're not doing other
Yeah.
things.
Other
And so,
projects.
so when I talk about cost of FOIPOP, there's two types of cost. There's the direct cost, which is paying somebody to do a job minus the recovery from citizens, right? Or the total cost, which is the cost of opportunity. I think that the opportunity cost, the combination of the two for this year is approaching, it's between $60,000 and $70,000 for the end of March of 2020.
That's close to a cent on our rate, isn't it?
It's over a cent. It's not 2. It's about 1.4 cents on the rate. But I would say that you have to understand that I'm saying that some of that cost would have been there anyway, right? So I'm just trying to be very clear about that. Like, some of that is an additional cost, and some of that happened to be a cost anyway. So it's hard to pinpoint a number on that, but what you can say for sure is that somebody working on that was not working on something else that
Right.
may be a priority of the administration or of council. And
So
I think-
another project may not have been worked on because the person in charge of conducting these FOIPOPs was busy working on FOIPOP.
I can assure you that happened. I can assure you that there were delays. So I can't assure you that things didn't get done.
Right.
I can assure you that things had to be arranged differently for them to be done. Perhaps it took a little longer, perhaps other people kicked in. It really is, it depends on the situation. Our staff have been, two things I want to say. They've been very, very serious about doing their best around these requests. And it's not always easy for either party, right? So it's not always understood by the applicant, and it's not always easy on somebody trying to explain the rules that they're trying to follow, because the rules they're not always rules that are agreed upon. So there can be some conflict, and but everybody's trying to lean in as much as possible to support, and we do also have IT support here as well. So it isn't just the FOIPOP administrator cost, it's also the time and energy for IT and other things so, in terms of anticipation for next year, it's really hard to say. I think we're saying an additional $40,000 minus maybe 10 for recovery. So we're saying an additional 30,000 of incremental, non-internal salary costs.
Right.
That number is built into other areas.
Okay. I'm just, thinking ahead and thinking, we're soon going to be sitting down talking about our budget and our tax rate and knowing the expenses. I want taxpayers to understand what the real costs of this are, because there has been a cost to the municipality. So I appreciate you answering all my questions and having all of council listen to me. We do have Deputy Warden Sonia, though, who has a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have an added question, thank you. Would you hire an independent third party to take care of FOIPOPs? And if you did, why would you?
Well,
Or can you?
so that's, to be the administrator, the answer is they must be a staff person of the municipality. But we have hired third-party consultants to do the redaction and do that. We're doing that now. And so we have a very reputable firm that this is what they do. We may consider other options in the future that may reduce the cost, because we want to reduce the costs for the municipality, and we want to reduce the cost for the applicant. We don't want the applicant to pay more than they have to. You know, so, and recognizing that there's a gap here, right? And so the taxpayers are paying for that gap, the gap between what we're able to charge and what we are being charged. So one way to control that is to reduce the cost of being charged. And to do that would require us to shop around perhaps. There may be some other options that we would consider. Right now, this is our only option as of today, but I'm not saying there wouldn't be more. I can also say that I'm looking at other solutions that are coming out of Ontario, that the AMANS is looking at seeing whether AI can help us, can be a solution here, as opposed to it being $140 an hour. That would significantly reduce. The efficacy of that I cannot say. So those things are all being considered. But right now, we are paying a third party to do the redactions, but it does not eliminate the need for the FOIPOP administrator to sign off on that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Digdon?
Thank you very much. I was just listening, I was writing some stuff down here. So the applicant is not disclosed?
No,
Are we allowed to disclose the applicant?
we do not disclose the applicant unless the applicant expressly disclosed it for themselves. And so we've seen that happen, where somebody has disclosed, I did this. We don't disclose it.
Okay. It's just ironic that sometimes the redactions may be covering up people's names, and that applicant, whether it be a him or her, may be upset because some names were covered, but their name never gets out. You know,
That is correct.
so I kind of, I have different views on that one. It's definitely costing money to the municipality, and that there, does the municipality, do the residents have a right to know what's going on? By all means, they do. And I'm behind that 100%, and I'll never sit at this council table if I feel as though we can't be honest with our residents. But at the same time, there's residents and fair redaction goes along sometimes with respect. And the other thing I did take note of here, we're talking about costs here this evening as far as monetary cost. Sometimes there can be other costs incurred with this as well. And that's more than monetary. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on FOIPOP? Counselor LeBlanc?
Thank you. Yeah, while we're sitting here listening to this, again, like Councillor Digdon, I was sitting taking some notes, and the amount of work, I know that when we looked at going to an outside firm to take care of some of this, and at a significant cost of $140 an hour, and we can only return a charge of $30. So that's $110 per hour that the taxpayer is footing for this. But there was a reason that was done, and again, and which I think you guys had certainly brought up, was that municipal staff were getting tied up, spending a lot of their time for these requests. Not only does that affect what they can do with their job and getting their work done, but that also, because of, I'll say it, the stress that it puts on them because they're not getting their job done and having to deal with other matters, brings up those other costs, which, you know, certainly the mental health side of things is along with the staff. So there seems to be an awful lot of requests and an awful lot of time regarding this topic. And yes, people have the right to know what council does, and they have a right to know what the municipality is doing, and they have a right to request that information. I really start to question, though, is this a fishing expedition, or are they really looking for detailed information? So, you know, that's my opinion, but it's, again, seeing the amounts that are coming through here and seeing what the costs are to the municipality. You know, when you're talking 1.4 cents of a tax rate, I will point out, I sit on, you know, a few committees that the other municipalities that we're all associated with, and we're in the budget process, and I have dealt with 4 budgets in the last 4 weeks. And each one of those budgets have a significant increase that are going to be coming to councils for. And that's the reality of things. And so when you start putting costs like this on top of those budgets as well, yeah, we have to really sit and look at, you know, does this come from reserves, or do we have to look at an adjustment to the tax rate? And I know nobody likes to put their taxes up, but costs are increasing. So anyways, thank you.
Thank you. That's why I felt it was important for transparency to make sure that, you know, all of our residents are aware of what's happening and the costs that are being accumulated. Councillor Madden.
I understand that ADA has created a lot of these FOIPOPs. Isn't ADA a provincial jurisdiction?
It is.
So why is the municipality on the hook for paying for the FOIPOPs?
That's an excellent question, Councillor. I think that it is absolutely regulated 100% by the province. The requests are coming from the citizens to us about emails that were either sent to us or that we sent. So regardless of who the regulatory authority was, those requests are coming to us to address. I don't know of any legislation in place that we could say, time out, I'm sorry, that's not our thing, because we don't judge the reason necessarily why somebody might be asking for that information. I think that because we were indirectly, or I should say associated, we were definitely associated with the ADA, that these requests are seeking information around how this process came to be. And my only comment on that would be that those that are asking are not satisfied with the answers that were provided. And so that's their right to ask for that information. I'm unaware of specifically whether some of these went to the province, because we don't see those requests, right? So I'm almost certain that certain requests did go to the province, the nature of which I have no insight, unless the province sent us the request to look at emails that we were included in. So, and I've yet to see that. So I don't, were there requests to the province? I can only presume that there would have been, but I'm not familiar with what they would be. I think that if the issue is the regulations, then I would certainly encourage anybody to go to the source. It would be difficult for us to request a reimbursement of those fees, I believe, because the information is ours. We can try, because I think you're quite right. It was regulated provincially. However, we have to answer the call for
So if the FOIPOPs had been done or requested from the province instead of the municipality, would that have changed things?
Yes, if they would have requested the province to provide information that we maybe would have been implicated on. So, for instance, emails between a department and us, there's two ways you can get that information, right? You can ask the municipality to give it because it's to and from, or you can ask the province to provide it. Had they sent all those requests to the province, we would not have received one FOIPOP request, in theory. All of those would have gone to the province, and they would have had to charge the fee and absorb the cost. Does that answer the question?
Somewhat, yeah.
So
Okay.
what I'm
Indirectly.
what I'm hearing is if somebody, so what I think I'm hearing Councillor Madden say is the province is the regulatory body, so how come the FOIPOPs didn't go to them? Which is a great question. I don't know why they're sending them to us, but if the FOIPOP requests come to us, we're the ones that have to respond. So we're the ones who have to do the work. We're the ones who have to do the redaction. If they'd gone to the province, then that would have been the province's responsibility. But they
Yes.
didn't. They may have.
They
but
may have.
We know that we've had 18 that we've had to respond to.
That came to us requesting us
Right.
to search and provide that information, yes. Yeah, and how many there are in the province, I could not tell you.
And it doesn't mean it's over.
No.
We could continue to get requests.
Well, I will say this on FOIPOPs generally across Nova Scotia, what we're looking at is there are a tremendous increase in FOIPOP requests, both to the provincial government and municipal governments happening right now. And I think it is a service that certain individuals are looking for. And it's not just Argyle, it's across Nova Scotia, and it's not just municipal, it's provincial as well. I can't really say anything about federal, but they have the same types of rules. So every jurisdiction has them slightly different, so we have to do things differently than the federal or the provincial government. But the FOIPOP requests are going up across Nova Scotia, not just on a particular issue, not just in a particular municipality. I just want to be clear on that. It's a service that we must provide. It's very similar to other things that the provincial government has pushed on us around services. Whether, we have the Anti-Racism Act and we have the Accessibility Act, and all those legislative requirements require us to do the work. And so this is no different. So it's just, the nature of the work might be a lot more voluminous than some of the other ones. Perhaps our Director of Recreational Services would disagree, because she was the author of the Accessibility Act, and she was the author of the EDIA or anti-racism recommendations, and that's not easy, but it's certainly something that we're required to do by the province, and this would be similar.
I just wanted to make sure that in full transparency that, and knowing budget deliberations are happening soon, I want our residents to understand that costs in general have gone up, but this is also another cost that we are adding into our budget that we're going to have to think about and that we're going to have to fund. So it is, already we talked about the tune of 1.4 cents on the rate possibly so far. So we do, though, have to appoint
We do,
Kyle Boudreau.
yes.
He is going to be the person who is going to be our FOIPOP administrator.
Yes, he's been acting in that position for about 2.5, 3 weeks now, but I believe the proper thing to do is to make that an official motion from
Okay.
council.
I can't make the motion. Is somebody willing to make that motion? Okay, it is moved by Councillor LeBlanc that we appoint Kyle Boudreau as our FOIPOP administrator. It is seconded by Councillor Bourque. Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Go ahead.
That's no problem at all, thank you. I'm going to definitely support this motion. I am not all in favor of it, and what I mean by that is I feel as though this gentleman has enough on his plate as it is right now. Somewhere along the line, either program that he's been working on or something is going to, I feel as though, suffer because of it.
100%.
Who are we going to get to help him out along the way? And but I'll definitely be supporting this motion. But, there's
Yes.
this, and I have to, I've often heard of it. I heard it from children, I've heard it from adults, it's free. free. Nothing is free in life, folks. There's always a cost associated with it somewhere along the line.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, CEO.
I'd like to address that because this, your concern is noted, respected. This may be a temporary gig. I mean, we want this person to be trained in that area, but we're also looking at getting other people trained and up onto this up-and-coming service that's being requested. So it is entirely possible that we could be bringing this up again for another individual. We do have other people in mind that might be able to take over if need be, in order to prioritize some of the operational priorities that he has. So yes, we're asking for this motion to make it official, but we may have to ask again.
Okay. You're welcome. So the motion on the floor is that we appoint Kyle Boudreau as our FOIPOP administrator. It's been moved and seconded. Any questions on that? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Next, we have 11D. We have SPCA notice of termination of dog control. So we received a letter from the SPCA letting us know that they're going to be having a change. It's for us, for the town, for the Municipality of Yarmouth as well, change in services. So they're going to discontinue their bylaw enforcement and animal sheltering. They're giving us a 3-month notice period, but we need to really think about seeking an alternative for the SPCA. So I asked our CAO, I said, so what's our next move on this one? So we have to really think about, I'm assuming that staff is, well, I know that you've tried to have some conversations around who can we reach out to and how can we continue this service? Who else can offer this service? I see that, Councillor Surratt, you have a question.
Yeah, I do, thank you. Just as I was reading this, I know that the municipality does provide funds to the SPCA, and I was curious to know if all of the funds are for enforcement, or if there are other services that they provide that we would continue paying, or does it mean that we no longer pay the SPCA and we look to pay elsewhere?
Through you, Madam Chair, excellent question. It costs us about $30,000 a year for SPCA services, and I would consider that, I guess, an all-in number, because they would, if we require sheltering, would shelter dogs. Either that dogs are abandoned by our residents, or that there's an actual bylaw infraction that requires the dog to be impounded. My understanding from this letter is that neither service will be available. I think that we're talking internally, very preliminarily, about whether or not bylaw enforcement could be handled internally. That we don't have a ton of dog calls, but as soon as I say that, we can have months where we have 10 and perhaps 5 for one dog in some cases. So it does go up and down, but we don't currently have a sheltering option at this time. So that's a concern. So we have a dog bylaw, we don't have a cat bylaw, and so the dog bylaw is very clear on what the regulations are. We might be able to do some enforcement internally. We're still working it out. There is no additional cost for kenneling. That is an all-in cost, $30K.
Councillor LeBlanc.
Oh, thank you. Where this is affecting not only our municipality, have we reached out to the other adjoining municipalities regarding this and look at working on something together?
Yes, we have. I don't have an answer, but we have reached.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? So we don't require any motions or anything at this point? Do
No,
we? No?
no, I just
Because we
really
have to.
needed you to be aware,
Yeah.
and it is an urgent issue that will have to be addressed for obvious reasons. There may have been changes to the SPCA services that I'm unaware of. This is the most recent information we've received.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Digdon?
Thank you. Just what Mr. LeBlanc, Councillor LeBlanc was saying. I wonder if this could possibly be a business venture for somebody out there. Like, because you might be able to get both municipalities in the town, you may be able to get a contract that would go along with it that would have some stability for starting out. It's, so, thank you.
Sure. Okay. Okay, next, 11E, we have overgrown trees along Chemin Tour des Buttes. That one was added by Councillor Foster, so I will pass the floor to Councillor Foster.
Hi. There continues to be an issue in Ameros Hill with the Chemin Tour des Buttes with overgrown trees and brush along this particular road. And I'm getting complaints from school bus drivers. When they meet oncoming traffic, the overgrowth is hooking into the mirrors on the school bus, flattening them against the body of the bus. And apparently, there's been mirrors ripped off the side of the bus. And I was speaking yesterday to a recently retired bus driver who told me that not only was the CSAP school buses having an issue, but also the Tri-County school buses as well. So all I'm requesting is that we write a letter to the Provincial Department of Transportation. I don't know what they're called now. They seem to change their name on a regular basis. But requesting that the trees be cut back and that the bushes be cut and put through a shredder. And they've done this work in secondary roads elsewhere in District 4 in the last year or so. So I'd like to make a motion that we write a letter to the Department of Transportation requiring the removal of these overgrown trees and brush.
Somebody willing to second that motion? Okay, seconded by Councillor Digdon. Questions or comments? Councillor Bork.
Yes, thank you. To his point, weren't we supposed to be meeting with that Department of Public Works for all those any issues that we're supposed to have? I'm not sure if I recall that.
They
we were
usually
supposed to-
come. Yeah, we usually have a meeting.
It's just information.
Yes,
They
thank you.
they usually come once a year or
Yes.
something like that. So I think it's time that we meet them again with the new councilors.
Good point.
The only thing I would add to that is that at this time of the year, the spring growth has not occurred yet. So all the hardwood trees and the alders and such don't have their leaves yet. Once we get the spring growth by June, the situation will be much worse. And basically, it'll become a vegetation tunnel. I don't know if Councillor Madden drives down that road on a regular basis. But,
Yeah.
so he pardon? Center line, right. I believe you.
Councillor Surratt?
Yeah, I just wanted it noted, I've phoned Public Works on a few occasions because of people having concerns of getting out of their driveway and not being able to see the traffic because of the overgrown brush on the side of the road. So just wanted, it is a concern, I think, in several of our districts. I'm seeing lots of nodding, so,
Yes, all.
yeah, and so I think we've called Public Works, and I'm looking forward to having a meeting with them.
Thank you. Councillor LeBlanc?
Thank you. Actually, Councillor Surratt took the words right out of my mouth. And that's exactly what I was going to point out, was that I think that we all have issues in our districts regarding this. I could name several throughout my district that I look at all the time. And yeah, I know that the departments are working on budgets and, but the growth is becoming more and more prevalent, and something the province really needs to look at doing something with this growth. So, thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Warden Sonia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Councillor Brooks' point about having the minister, by chance, our warden was on vacation, and I met with our MLA Colton and Deputy Minister Paul LaFleche here in this municipal building. It was a brief encounter. However, our minister's looking, or deputy minister's looking for bigger things than cutting brush, which is a good thing. But he made the offer. He says anytime council wants to meet, he would come here. And Colton made a suggestion that he would meet with us. He'd like to meet with us first. And then he would invite Councillor Paul LaFleche to come, and we could iron out things a little better. So I'm wondering if that letter should be sent to Colton rather than the Department of Highways,
We could CC,
or both.
we could CC
Yeah,
our MLA.
yeah.
Yeah. Is that okay with you? Okay. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Counselor Foster has asked that we write a letter to the Department of Transportation, Public Works, requesting the cutting of the overgrown trees and brush along the Chemin Tour des Buttes. And we would CC our MLA Colton LeBlanc in that letter. And we have a seconder. Our seconder is Counselor Digdon. Are there any other questions or comments on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Next, we have 11F, replacement of group box for weekly flyers in Amirals Hill. Should I, remember this one is, 1 second, Counselor Foster. Should I declare conflict?
Oh,
I'm going to declare a conflict just until it gets to a point where I no longer need to, for safety measure. And so I will declare a conflict of interest on this item because the K. Nickerson Center is mentioned in terms of possibly engaging them to make the box. So my husband works at the K. Nickerson Center, so I'm going to recuse myself. I'm going to declare conflict of interest. You are the chair.
See you later.
I will walk out. You let me know when you need me.
are you good, Mr. New Chair?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So,
So when
Councilor Foster.
when I wrote that, I had no idea that her husband was employed. Well, I guess I did know years ago, but I kind of forgot about it. As a municipal councillor, I get requests for big projects, and I get requests for small projects. And this obviously would be in the small project category. I did come into the office here yesterday, and one of the staff members said, well, why did you put that on the council agenda? I could have helped you with that. I said, great. I said, do you have a spare minute? And the staff member said yes, and I went into the staff member's office, and we made a few phone calls, and the company that delivers the flyers took down the information, and they promised that they would replace the box.
okay.
Now, I drove by today, and the box has still not been replaced. I sent some photos to you. I don't know if you guys got to see the photos.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
I was unable to get them on the agenda because I was too late sending them in. But if you look at the photos, you'll see that what they've got for a flyer group box is in pretty bad shape. So I thought if we can't get it replaced by the company, and I didn't even know who the company was when I wrote this, I was responding to requests from area residents. I thought maybe we could get one, perhaps the carpentry workshop at the local high school here, École Secondaire de Panamba, the high school in Yarmouth, or possibly the K. Nickerson Center to construct a new box, because this would be a very simple and inexpensive project.
Correct. But we can only ask one school to do this. We can't ask all three, so.
Right. I see, I didn't know if, I thought, we could approach maybe Panamba first. If they said yes, fine. If not, maybe we could move on to Yarmouth High. If they said yes or no, then we could, depending if they said no, we could move on to the third option. But right now, it's in the hands of the company. We were able to identify where the company is located. It's no longer located on 2nd Street in Yarmouth, as it used to be. But we were able to talk to people, and they've promised that they would replace it.
So are you prepared to wait a while longer for that?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. I think we can wait and see what happens for
Okay.
now.
All right, then.
So we don't require a motion.
No,
at
I
this
wouldn't
time.
say.
Okay?
Shall I go get the water?
Sure.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. Just wanted to declare that because this is a municipal issue. This was a decision that could potentially be made by our municipality, and so the declaration of the conflict it was the right place to do that this time around. Next, we have we have information on climate work.
No, it'd be G,
Sorry, multi-use path, thank you. That is also Councillor Foster.
Again, I am responding to requests from area residents. A lot of people walk on the main road in Hubbard's Point, Highway 308, and the configuration of the district, well, you can look at the back of your hand and imagine the municipality of Argyle. So the top of your hand would be the Tuscot area, Quinnen area, et cetera, the inland areas. And all the other sections of the municipality are a bunch of peninsulas jutting out into Lobster Bay. Think of Comoes Hill. Think of Wedgeport and Wedge Point. My side of the river, Hubbard's Point down to the end of Morris Island. So all the traffic flows through Hubbard's Point to get to the Tuscot area. So this is what I call the bottleneck in the district. So the larger part of the bottle would be all the communities south of Hubbard's Point, and the proposed walking path area is toward the northern end of the village of Hubbard's Point. So there's a lot of big trucks rolling through there. There's rockweed trucks, there's fuel trucks for lobster boats, there's heavy equipment trucks going by, there's school buses going by. There's a lot of people walking on the side of the road, and it's very narrow. Hubbard's Point has a lot of young families. There's people pushing strollers, people walking with young children who are riding a little bicycle in front of the parent who's pushing an infant in a stroller. A lot of people walking, and they walk the loop. They go around the Chemin de la Pointe, which makes it nice. If you look at attachment 1, you'll see my scraggly writing. Let's see here. Attachment 1. What's this? Okay, am I clicking in the right place here? So where is it here? Attachment 1. Oh, here it is. I got it. So it seems that what is being mostly approved nowadays are multi-use paths instead of sidewalks as such. So either or would be acceptable to the population. So the point would be to link both ends of the Chemin de la Pointe to form one big circle for walking, biking, jogging, etc. The purpose of this project is to provide a separated pathway for the activities I just mentioned on the east side of Highway 308 in Hubbard's Point. The reason why, and I'm not an engineer, the reason why I suggested the east side, because the houses on the east side of the road are higher than the road. The houses on the west side of the road are lower than the road bed. The summit of the hill is actually behind the houses on the east side of the road. So this would ensure the safety of residents by keeping pedestrians out of heavily used and dangerous traffic lanes. This is the busiest travel lane in all of District Number 4, as it serves, like I mentioned, the bottleneck for all vehicular traffic, including big trucks connecting the peninsula to the greater Tuscot area. There is also a straightaway along this route. It has a 70-kilometer speed limit, but there's a lot of passing. There's a broken yellow line. There's a lot of passing, and I hate to say it, but a lot of speeding. If you were to set up a speeding meter or set up a counting meter for vehicles, you would find that in all of District 4, this is without a doubt the most heavily traveled section of roadway in that district. So there's a lot, it's very dangerous when you're walking on the shoulder of the road, very narrow shoulder, in a passing lane, and you've got one vehicle passing another. A lot of people have had close calls, they've had to jump in the ditch, they've been forced into the ditch off the roadway because of very close calls. I would like to bring your attention now to attachment number 2, which outlines what I'm talking about. I don't know how familiar all councillors are with the Hubbard's Point area. There used to be an old yellow store that operated until the 1950s. It was a combination general store, post office, gas station, and it's been taken down just a very few short years ago, less than 5 years ago. Well, it would go from that entrance into the Chemin de la Pointe, although it would be located on Highway 308, going south to the south entrance of the road. And civic address 142 is the community center in Hubbard's Point, and there's also a playground located on the ground of the community hall. So a lot of young kids travel this route trying to get to the playground. So this is not a developed project. I just wrote down a few notes. There has been no community engagement session that has been held yet on the project. I'm just responding to requests from several area residents who have come to me and asked, is there anything that can be done about this? I'm sure a design would be needed, either an engineer or consultant. I'm thinking of Stacy Muse, who was here recently for the Tusket Trail that is being discussed or contemplated. There needs to be community engagement sessions, and detailed design is needed. Now, apparently, 33 feet from the yellow line is owned by the Department of Transportation. So when the deputy warden said that Paul LaFlèche is interested in bigger projects, well, this would be an interesting one. I don't know if it would have to go over the ditches, meaning that the ditches would have to be piped and that it would have to go over the ditches, or if it could be done on the edge of the lawns. I'm
So-
not sure of those details. We would need to have somebody like Stacy
Right.
Muse take a look at it. The total length of the pathway would be 910 meters, so less than a kilometer.
Thank you. So it sounds like this is something up for discussion. You're bringing in some information
All
before
I'm
we get
looking
there.
for this evening would be support in principle by Argyle Council. Then we could start looking at doing the work that needs to be done that I mentioned from these notes, and also looking at potential funding sources.
Okay, so are you making that a
So-
motion?
A motion for support in principle,
Okay.
not
Somebody-
requesting any funds at this
Okay.
point.
Is somebody willing to second that motion? Okay, seconded by Counselor Madden. Discussion. So we have Deputy Warden Sonia.
Thank you. The reason I'm speaking up on this is because there's history here for sidewalks. I don't think there's a district that doesn't want sidewalks. So my district too has been after sidewalks now for the best part of 40 years. They actually, I have motions homemade back in the 90s that was defeated, I think, 5-4.
40 years ago.
But there was motions made for sidewalks. Since then, Natalie would be best
Okay.
equipped to give you the
That's an excellent suggestion.
saying. Anyhow, but the reason I'm giving you this brief history is because there's 4 new councils. They probably don't know where we are with sidewalks. So sidewalks is expensive, and to say that Paul LaFlèche would have nothing to do with sidewalks. It's all municipal and grants, of course. So it comes out of our back pocket, so to speak. So because Plymouth was asking for sidewalks for so long, when I first got elected, one of my the biggest thing was to try to get sidewalks for Plymouth. And we got active transportation revitalized, I guess, and they made a survey and found out that there were sidewalks needed in Pumlico, extensions to the already existing ones, and some needed in Wedgeport in the same way. And that Tusket with the school would need sidewalks, especially crossing a new highway, and of course, Plymouth. Plymouth has a school, and, you know, for all the reasons you gave, we have around 4,000 cars a day that goes by in Plymouth. So anyhow, right now, they're actively looking and doing feasible studies. We've done a virtual conception of sidewalks in Plymouth and in Tuscan. There will be some architectural drawings coming out sometimes this spring for a community viewing and to have another look. Beyond that, once that's done, it goes back to our administration, and of course, council has the last word. And it's all about affordability, getting grants, getting it all done. So I'm not trying to throw water on your argument. I'm saying that there's talk of sidewalks out there. There's work being done as we speak. I'm sure our CAO can add a lot to that, or maybe not. I'm not sure.
Thank you. CEO Muse?
I'm not sure about a lot, but a little. So we do have an active transportation plan. So in that active transportation plan, there are recommendations to add either multi-purpose or sidewalk. They don't actually specify the type of sidewalk or multi-use. What they're basically saying is this is the order upon which they should be considered. And the two that we have done studies are on already. One is in the Tuscan area and the other is in the Plymouth area, to your point. And based on those, we haven't seen the final reports of those. In every situation where funding might be a possibility, we have to do this type of planning. So the type of planning that Councillor Foster wishes to see in Hubbard's Point is very similar to what we would do in the other communities. We do not possess a sidewalk policy which what it would do is it would be very clear about how people are to approach or apply for something like this. And this has been raised before, but there was never I guess a decision to make up that policy, because the first step was seen to be to focus on the active transportation recommendations. In terms of the motion in question, we have a list of what I call a master capital plan list, which means that any project that is either coming out of administration because it has to be replaced, or a new project that council wishes to consider goes on that list. And it doesn't mean it's going to happen in a year. It doesn't actually say when it will happen. And what typically gets done is there's an original estimate of how large that project might be, and the order upon which we would attack this kind of thing. We don't have, outside of the active transportation, any list of communities outside of that say you're next. Okay. So the council, based on the fact that it doesn't have a policy per se, it can, on the motion, whether it's amended or not, I mean, that's not my motion. They could seek to add it to a long-term list. That is an option here that would address the fact that, yes, there is a felt need, and council agreed with that need. Alternatively, the other options you might have around this is, I mean, you may want to go broader, because I'm sensing that this is something that a lot of communities are looking for, and that would be up to council whether it wishes to go deeper into that discussion. We don't have information that indicates how residents might be charged like a frontage or anything like that. There's no information on that developed at this time. So my suggestion might be that we probably need to do that. If this is something that council wishes to invest more money in, we need to expand the policy around how this works. That will take some time. On the motion, if you wished to add it to a long-standing list, there's no guarantee that it will be done anytime soon, but what council's basically saying is that they're recognizing that this is a potential project. By putting it on that list doesn't mean that it's there forever. It could come off. I'm just trying to suggest how we navigate through this, because I'm recognizing it's coming from one councillor, and I just want to try to give you some guidance around how to deal with that. I'm not sure how clear that was, so I'll stop speaking at this point.
Thank you. Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you. I think we all want sidewalks. And going back to your comment, and I will make a comment also, don't forget, there's also a school in Argyle, Grumman Heights, right? So with it seems that, you know, any one of us could have came here tonight and said, we want a sidewalk for our area. And I think the question now becomes, how are we going to decide on what districts get that sidewalk? Because at probably $1.5 million per kilometer, it's a big chunk of our budget. And so when that planning starts going in regards to it, I think the municipality needs a plan. And so it's not just, you know, I'd love to have a sidewalk in my area. Does it make sense for me to have a sidewalk in my area, you know, before maybe putting a sidewalk in front of the school here at Paraba? You know, no, obviously it doesn't, right? You know, speaking truthfully here. My residents might be upset over that, me saying that, but that is the reality of it. So what I think council should do, or at least the municipality should do, is if we are going to be looking at sidewalks down the road, and whether that's, you know, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever time frame it is, I think we need to have a plan on what areas, where's the priority, and not the priority based on who screams the loudest, but what is actually the priority based on how the municipality is growing in the different areas that are growing. And I think that then takes it all away from each councillor sitting here fighting for their district if we had a plan in place in regards to, okay, this area here, there's the priority, and this is why it's priority. Now, whether you have independent consultants determine that, you know, that might be something that we might want to do. But if we're going to get serious into looking at sidewalks, because of the cost, I think we really need to put a serious plan together in regards to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bork?
Yes, I guess I was going to say what Councillor Blanc was going to say, and maybe just to add, to revise the plan for active transportation as well. And probably there's not just cement sidewalks that you can put, there's other ways of putting sidewalks, so that might be a little bit cheaper. So those kind of plans could be probably looked at and thought of. We've already talked about this before, so that's all I wanted to add.
Thank you. Councillor Surratt?
Thank you. Having been on the Active Transportation Committee in the past for Argyle as well as Yarmouth, I remember at one point there was understanding where Department of Transportation, Public Works were actually going to be doing repaving, because one of your points, Councillor Foster, is how narrow the sides of the roads are, which it's narrow across our municipality. And one of the pieces was advocating to Public Works that when they were going to be doing repaving projects, when things were going to be coming up, if they could at least widen the side of the road, which is far more cost-effective and certainly it falls on the province and not on the municipality. And so would be one piece of advocacy of kind of understanding, and they also have a 5-year plan of when they're doing paving, and we might not even be on that plan in the next 5 years. But But it is important to kind of know when they're doing their next paving projects, their reconstruction projects, and actually asking for the side of the road to be widened. And the other piece is the crushed gravel that they put on the side of the road is quite dangerous for cyclists. You really slip, and it really causes a lot of injury, and the injury could be actually falling onto the paved section of the road. And so that's the other piece, is really advocating for, if we don't have sidewalks, what are they putting on that side of the road so that we don't cause further harm to our walkers and cyclists?
Thank you. Counselor Madden?
Thank you, Madam Warden. I guess I'm going to take a piece out of Premier Houston and take no out of Nova Scotia. We have to start somewhere. Like Councillor Sonia said, he's been working on it 40 years, and if they'd have said something 40 years ago, they might have had something. So yeah, I know we all want sidewalks. I particularly like this one because of the chemin de pointe. In Chebourg, they did a trail, which is, I don't know what the cost was. I know Stacy was talking to me about it, and he had to do engineering on it. And I don't see why we shouldn't just have a look at it. I'm surprised, Councillor Greg Foster, that you're on the opposite side of the road. To me, you're asking for danger here if people want to cross over to go to Chemin de la Pointe. I understand that there's a height problem there, but I was surprised to see that what side of the road it is, and a nice diagram for us to understand, so. But yeah, I think we have to start. Municipality of Yarmouth, Town of Yarmouth asked for money, and we're right there. Where this could probably benefit more of our residents than some of the projects that we're involved with in town. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Sonia? Deputy Warden Sonia?
Thank you for the
Sorry?
second. Councillor Madden, to your point, I think you were referring to Rockville rather than Chebourg, right? It is.
That could very well be.
Yeah, so I think that's a gravel path. I don't think that would be accessible through active transportation because of accessibility today. If you cannot put a wheelchair on it, they will not fund it.
I'm not saying to go.
I'm just saying.
To look into that
Yeah.
type of project rather than a sidewalk.
Right, I don't think that you'd find the funding for that, am I correct?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can say a solid yes or no to that, but I can say that 2030 is the year of accessibility, and when you construct something new, you need to take accessibility into account. Does it mean that you must have it paved and do this and that? The standards have not been released. So, so the answer is, many people that are putting in sidewalks now are taking into consideration of the potential new rules that could come in. Technically, they only apply on 2030, but sidewalks are here for a long time, right? So the traditional sidewalk has become a lot more expensive. If there can be gravel options, obviously the maintenance of that is a little bit higher cost because obviously it's not concrete, it's a little bit more to maintain. But if it's an acceptable product, it's generally quite a bit cheaper to construct. I think that it used to be a rule of thumb, $1,000 per square meter, so $1 million for a kilometer of sidewalk. I think that if you were to do the sidewalks, that was the rule of thumb years ago. I think you probably multiply that by 3 if you're doing a traditional construction. So if the gravel is an option that is acceptable and that is fundable, it would definitely be the cheaper way to go. That I can tell you for sure. Once the standards come out, we'll let you know. That's all I can say about it, I guess.
Counselor Foster?
I just mentioned the east side of Highway 308. I'm not an engineer, but that's where the houses are higher than the road, and the houses are set further back away from the road. Whereas on the western side, they're much closer to the road, and like I say, they're lower than the road bed. But maybe a professional engineer would not agree with the map there that I provided. That's all.
Counselor Digdon.
Thank you. The only thing I will say, like, if you look back, the accessibility study for the municipality back about 7 or 8 years ago, there was some talk about extending the sidewalk in Pubnico at the time. One of the scariest places that I see right now with no sidewalk, and I think you're gonna have a lot more foot traffic on it in the next little while, is between here and Paramba. With the new place opening up and the new business opening up, and if you go by there at dinner time, anytime, and that around the dinner, it's just nonstop. And I always think to myself, it's something they. So, and at the same time, I feel as though if we are gonna go at this and that, let's look for other types of funding, like, let's prioritize, like Mr. LeBlanc, Councillor LeBlanc was saying, and then go after it and go from there. Yep, thank you.
And I think part of, as our deputy warden said, revitalizing our active transportation plan gave us the ability to go after more funding, right? And that way, it gave the reasons why we needed multi-purpose paths in these areas. And then we got funding for some of the studies that helped us with figuring out where they should be. So we know that in Argyle, we like to use other people's money when we can to pay for things. So having a solid plan is definitely important, and I think that it definitely doesn't hurt for us to have a conversation around prioritizing, knowing that, there's already work that's been done in Plymouth and Paramba, so we already have, those are kind of under the radar. So that was really good discussion. Councillor Foster, how do you feel about the motion that you've made? Do you want to continue on with the motion you've made? Do you want to amend it? I'm just offering you the ability to let us know what you want to do.
Well, I'm sure that the public would be satisfied, but I'd have to have a public engagement session. I'm sure they'd be satisfied with any option that would take them out of the traffic, off the shoulder of the road. Be it a multi-purpose path, be it paved or gravelled or what have you. But again, it's like Councillor Madden said, you have to start somewhere, and this is only the starting point. So a motion to approve in principle this project, which would allow the community to go forward with exploring funding options, if there are any out there, I think would be helpful.
Okay.
Can't hurt.
Okay, so that was seconded by Councillor Madden. Any other questions or comments on this motion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion carried.
Thank you.
Next, we have H, information on climate change work. Okay. This had come up, we had received, did everybody receive the information on climate change work? I'm not sure if we all received it. I know that Councillor Madden had received it. Do you have anything? I'm really not sure what we're going to do with this one. Do you want to?
I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
I just asked the minister if I could share it with council. He said, yeah, by all means. So
Okay.
I sent it to Ellen. I didn't really, sorry, I didn't really understand, but I was surprised he was here. I wasn't sure if he was going to be here or not, so.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
I wasn't sure whether it added or not either, but I think that they were requesting a contact here that would be a representative, I guess, for climate change related conversations. And I think putting it on the agenda means, is it something that council wishes to have us do? And so climate change is something that we have in terms of priority, and we don't have a designated person for climate change related work, but the staff can certainly be contacted by Lavinius, I think is who you said, regarding this. We're happy to have that contact and see where it goes.
Okay.
And if there are costs or anything that needs to be brought to the attention of council, we will certainly do that. So I don't know that a motion is required on this one, only to say that we're willing to be a contact, and if you wish to send us that information, we'll get that started.
Maybe send him whoever he could deal with.
Yeah, it can come to me this, and then I can decide, depending on what he's looking for, it could be, yeah. Okay.
Even Remo.
Yeah.
Would that be an appropriate?
It may.
It may
right?
be one.
You know, we have one of the positions that we had, one of the, yeah, it could be a remote coordinator, it could be a new fire coordinator, right? It could be
Right.
all sorts of different
Okay.
people. So, just have them send that information to myself and I'll pass it along.
Okay, thank you. I, first reading tourism marketing levy bylaw. There's an attachment. So this came, we've had a look at this, our previous council had a look at this before. So they're looking for having a short-term accommodation marketing levy so that people who stay in Argyle, if you stay at accommodations, whether it's a hotel or whether it's an Airbnb or a bed and breakfast, that we would those people would charge a marketing levy of 3%. So it would be something that the person who is staying there would pay. I know, for example, when I stay in a hotel at the city, there is a marketing levy on my bill, and you pay it, and those funds, YASTA would use those funds for marketing. That would be marketing and promotion, which is what they do for us. So they've been talking about this. It came up before. I know that YASTA has met and has talked about this bylaw, so it has come to us for first reading. So what is the wish of council? Does somebody want to make a motion to pass first reading on this tourism marketing levy bylaw? Okay, moved by Councillor Boudreau. Do we have a seconder on that? Seconded by Councillor Foster. Do we have any questions or comments on that? Deputy Warden Sonia.
Thank you. These levies, do they go directly in marketing the businesses that are paying the levy?
Not necessarily that particular business. It's businesses. It's YASTA is Yarmouth and Acadian Shores Tourism Association. So it encompasses all of YASTA. So it's used for marketing all of our businesses within that area.
Okay.
That's a great question, though.
So, just wondering if there was any pushback from the businesses? Because I remember we had a meeting here and some were for, some were against. Are they accepting?
I think there's pushback on everything. But I do recall when I was sitting in one of the meetings, a business owner said, I don't think a 3% marketing levy is going to stop somebody from coming to my business. There were some questions around how does it get administered, who is the administration of it, because the money collected has to be remitted to the municipality, and then it's remitted to, so YASTA collects that, and they use that for marketing and tourism. So it's new, right? It's a new thing, and I think there's going to be hiccups, and there's going to be a learning curve around it, because it's kind of like a pilot thing for us. So definitely there was some good discussion.
This is beyond Argyle.
I believe that Yarmouth, the municipality of Yarmouth and the town of Yarmouth have already approved this, correct? Yeah, we're kind of the last ones to have approved this.
Okay.
So, and I know, and we're going to look at later on, a funding request, but YASTA, when they're creating budgets, they had kind of considered this as part of their budget. Councillor LeBlanc, yes, you are on YASTA. Would you like to jump in? Go ahead.
Thank you. That's what I was waiting for. Actually, we also have the CEO, Neil McKenzie here from YASTA, who can answer any of your questions regarding that. This bylaw is going to put Argyle on a level playing field along with the town of Yarmouth, the municipality of Yarmouth, and some of the other local areas going forward. There was a levy in place throughout the town of Yarmouth for quite a while. A few years back, the provincial government changed things up, and the levy sort of got canceled and this is what's the result of it is that each municipality has to go through this process of the bylaw. there are still hotels in the town of Yarmouth that charge the levy, and those funds are sent to YASTA. And so the advertising that takes place from YASTA, you could indicate that are all businesses in favor of it? No, and like anything, you're not going to have every business in favor of it. But at this point, and what has been happening over the last while, is you have had hotels in Yarmouth that have been charging the levy, and those funds have been benefiting the whole area.
Yeah.
Right? What YASTA's trying to do is to have that levy across the board, and not just where it affects hotels, because one of the things that have coming out of it is that before it was just hotels that was charging it, bed and breakfasts and Airbnbs had an advantage by not having to charge it. So this is going to level the playing field. It is also going to provide the funding that is required for YASTA to continue doing what they do. And on our next presentation that you'll see, when we get into that, and you'll see the difference in regards to why.
Yes.
This has been a long time in the making, and it's, in my opinion, I think is required for the area. So if you have some further questions, by all means, again, Neil McKenzie's here and he can answer quite a bit and provide you with numbers if needed. But
Thank you for that. Counselor Surratt?
Thank you. I also had a couple questions. One of them was, do the businesses feel they'll be negatively affected, which has been answered, thank you. One question I had was, do we know how many businesses it affects in the Municipality of Argyle?
I have some numbers. Thanks for the question. I have some numbers from various sources, but what will really provide you with the most accurate number would be based on the Short-Term Registry Accommodation Act, which requires accommodations to register with the province. And when they register with the province, there's a point in which they have to come to the municipality where they're operating, in this case Argyle. They would have to come to Argyle and get what's called a confirmation letter or a permit. That would then inform that list. So we do have some of that short-term rental accommodation data now that the municipality has. And I also have some metrics that I get from other data sources that basically tell me how many accommodations are within Argyle right now. So I can get that number for you, but it is a floating number because, for example, with short-term rentals or Airbnbs, for example, sometimes the numbers go higher in the summertime when there's more demand, and then they actually go down a bit in the winter, right? So, but you're looking generally between 30 and 40 short-term rentals in Argyle. Yep.
We have another one.
Yes, go ahead.
It's interesting because you said it normally goes down. However, in our district and likely other districts, there's a lot of lobster fishermen from away who come into the area for the season, and they would be considered short-term rentals, I'm assuming. So I would suspect the levy would also apply to them?
If they stayed, the bylaw, which you're reviewing, if they stayed for longer than 30 days, it wouldn't be applicable. They would be exempt.
Okay.
So it depends on how long they're here for, I guess, yeah.
Okay, good. Counselor Digdon?
Thank you very much. Only thing I'm wondering, we'd met last year with some of the operators here at a meeting, and has there been another meeting since then? Okay, good, because the only thing I'd have trouble with is they were promised and that they'd be listened to again, that there'd be a meeting again, and if we're just putting it out for them without, their input, I'd be upset with that. And when will this law go into effect if this is passed?
Go ahead.
Well, I don't know the timing. I know it's first reading and then second reading, correct?
May 1st is likely the answer,
Okay.
if the readings are accepted.
And then I think your bylaw actually says that the operators would remit on a quarterly basis.
Yes.
So there wouldn't really be money being collected for 3 months after it was remitted.
Yeah.
There is a caveat in the bylaw that also says any business that an operator, so for example, if you had pre-bookings for your accommodation, you wouldn't be required to pay that 3% or collect that 3% because it's coming from the visitor on any pre-booked business. That was some feedback that we did hear for some operators during the first meeting and the second meeting. And that's a normal, typical question, and it's usually addressed when you implement a bylaw. You basically say any of the business that's currently on the books wouldn't be subject to the bylaw until that is cleared off. So
Exactly.
it will take a while because
Yeah.
some accommodations do book quite far out.
That's right.
The average
Yeah.
lead time, I guess, for accommodations in Yarmouth County is about 60 days, 65 days sometimes, so.
No, thank you, just making sure, like I said, that, these operators had their chance again to put their thoughts on that forward, because I didn't want to do it behind their back and say, okay,
Absolutely.
here's what we decided for you. That's typical sometimes what happens, and that's, no, I didn't want to be part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Warden Sonia.
I will make that motion for the first reading, to accept the first reading.
Okay. Did we,
I think we do.
I think we did. Yeah.
Did we?
It was, that's what I thought.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So it was moved by Counselor Boudreau, seconded by Counselor Bork, Counselor Foster. Okay, it's been a while. A lot of motions tonight. Any other questions or comments on that? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just on the public hearing side. So there were 3 touches with the accommodations, and obviously not all the accommodation people provided input. It's generally speaking, the positives is that, okay, well, this is not paid for by us, this is paid for by the visitors coming in, and it's very typical across Nova Scotia. So it's not abnormal to see that, and it is uniform across many organizations. So that was a plus that they commented on. They also commented on the negative, which is it's an annoyance, right? Because now they have to do that calculation. Now some of the platforms help you make that calculation. Some would have preferred to have seen more direct marketing for their organization. And so we accepted those comments as, they're legitimate comments, and this would not stop individual accommodations from going and promoting their own thing, right? So if somebody had an Airbnb, or if somebody had and they're used to getting people from, Luxembourg, maybe they'll have direct marketing for that particular site. So this is more regional marketing, which means, come see us. Well, sometimes they might go see one accommodation, sometimes they might go see another. So those were kind of the comments that we received on public hearing. All of the changes to the bylaw that they suggested, we pretty much implemented. I'm not going to say every single thing, but a lot of the changes were accepted and made for them. And so I think that's all I would have to say about the public hearing. Clearly, not everybody agrees that this is a great idea, right? That we're not suggesting that wasn't shared at that meeting, but others really did see this as a positive, and from the perspective of YASTA, it is a critical revenue stream for them so that they can continue to market the region.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Second go-around, thank you. And the only thing I would say, though, and I know the ASTA definitely promotes the region, but and I'm just going to say, I think, maybe you're going to tell me different, but I think it might be safe to say if there is more dollars coming out of this area and generated out of this area, that there may be a little bit more information put out there about this area, because I know that's what some of them felt last time around, that they weren't getting the equal representation. And that's so just hoping that might refer, to a few more.
Your point's taken, and I get that feedback depending on the room I'm in, and depending on the operator I'm talking to.
Yep.
And we feel that pressure and that requirement to perform, and that we're going to be measured on that. We do things regionally, where that's our job, is to market the region, to build demand for the region. We're a subsidiary of Argyle, Modi, and the town, and also Wasahapa First Nation now, so formerly Acadia First Nation. So they believe in the strength of this process of collecting levy so much that they're voluntarily collecting 3% from their guests through the Truba Hilton, for example. and they're not even required to do it. But they recognize that, I think Warden Albright had said, it's a kind of a great policy to spend other people's money. This is kind of a harsh tone to say it with regards to visitors, but what we're doing is we're taking that visitor demand, we're capturing some of those funds that they're bringing to the community, and we're using that, then we're immediately amplifying it by adding it to the Town of Yarmouth, Wasahau Bar First Nations funding, and Modi's funding, and hopefully Argyle's. And now we have, we've multiplied that money right away. Now we can take that money again and multiply that with provincial and other partners.
Exactly.
And market the region, market things like Acadian experiences and content and astrotourism and all the things that we do. But you need money and partnerships and resources to do that. And we've had that for a long time in the town, and I'm really happy to see that Argyle is considering this, and also Modi they passed their bylaw, they're just implementing the process of the administrating of it. And with that, we'll be able to do more for sure. It's absolutely a great thing. And a lot of destinations, a lot of places that are trying to get set up in the region, look at Yasta and say, look what they're doing. They've got municipal and bylaws in place. And how can we do something like you're doing? So, but I hear what you're saying 100%.
Okay, just if I can. Okay, it took a while, but I got a couple of things out of you that I wanted. More for sure, measure the outcome. So, and the only other thing, I am for it by all means. This is one of the only areas now that I go in the province that you don't pay a levy of some sort, so I just feel, I know there's gonna be growing pains and all that, but at the end of the day, I think it'll be a win-win.
It is capped too. I just wanted to mention that to everybody.
this area.
It's 3%. It's capped at that right now, the provincial legislation. So.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor that was made by Councillor Boudreau, seconded by Councillor Foster, to approve first reading, of the Tourism Marketing Levy Bylaw. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Okay. We're getting close to our 3-hour mark here, and we're feeling it. J, we have the Yasta Core funding request. There are 3 attachments, so we have our request for proposal here that talks about, so the core funding request is for, let me just scroll down, $21,000. So part of that is because they have not been able to collect the levy from Argyle, but they have been able to collect the levy from the Town of Yarmouth and the Municipality of Yarmouth, and now, as you said, Wasaubaha First Nations, but it gave them a bit of a shortfall. So it gave them a shortfall, and we know that, they were expecting the funds, so they're looking for, I guess, some extra funding.
So I'll start.
Deputy Warden.
Thank you. This question's been bugging me almost all week. With the situation in the U.S. right now in tourism, there's been a lot of talk about Canadians canceling trips to the U.S. and vice versa, actually, Americans canceling down here. Are you looking at that in any serious way in your marketing model?
We're, Tourism Nova Scotia just launched, I believe it was today or yesterday, they launched their campaign. So they're and we often model and build on some of the themes that they develop. We stick with, first of all, we stick with our branding and our marketing themes, but the Northeast US is critical market for us, and we're very cognizant of the sentiment of Americans wanting to come to Canada, and also Canadians traveling to the US. With our main corridor being the Cap Ferry, 80% of the traffic is US to Canada, which we're thankful for and is beneficial. So that other 20%, we are getting signals from my sources that is going to be impacted based on travel sentiment to the US for Canadians. So Canadians are canceling trips, as you said. They're deciding not to travel to the US. The dollar is also impacting this, and inflation. So Canadians are just deciding to find other places. But there's other things that are happening as well. So the data that I have and the conversations I've been having anecdotally with other partners in the US and through other sources is that Americans still see Canada and Atlantic Canada as a great location. They still feel welcome and that they want to come. There's There is some more awareness now of the value of their dollar versus the Canadian dollar. And Tourism Nova Scotia actually has recognized that in a way, in that they're actually positioning some marketing a little bit more now to reflect the Canadian dollar, like basically that Canada is a value destination, that your dollar goes further. So they're putting some of that language and some of their calls to action in their marketing, which they haven't done for a long time because the dollar kind of varies, but because it's so low, and will probably stay low for a while, unfortunately, we're going to utilize that as a bit of a lure for Americans. The other part about Canadians, so we are probably going to see a bit of a drop from those 20% of Canadians that travel on the CAT, US bound, but there is data that's showing Canadians are more likely to stay home this year or stay in Canada or find other destinations, and including Atlantic Canada. And so post-COVID, for example, in 2021 and 22, we had really great years. And a lot of that was related to Canadians and Atlantic Canadians staying close by and traveling to places like Yarmouth and Acadian Shores. So we may lose that demand to go to the US, that 20%, but I'm hopeful, and I know hope's not a strategy, but I'm hopeful that we'll see another bump from other demand and other interest. So
It's kind of what I was
yeah.
looking, yeah.
Yeah, we're very cognizant of it. Everyone's trying to measure it, and it's usually measured through a lot of sentiment. So they do a lot of surveys asking, how do you feel about Canada? Are you considering going? You know, when are you considering going? All that stuff. And those are still really good signals from the U.S., but certainly that 20% I expect won't be traveling to U.S. So we may lose some room nights from that.
So we do have a couple of motions to consider before we actually jump into the real conversation. So we could move the core funding request of $21,000 to be approved by council and reflected in the 2024-2025 fiscal year, or council could disagree with the request and then deny the funding request. So what is the wish of council on this one? How do we feel about it? Is somebody, okay? Go ahead, Councillor LeBlanc.
Thank you. I just want to comment further, I guess, in regards to this, and just to, I guess, lay out a bit of why they're in this situation, or why YASTA is in this situation right now. And that does go back to the levy. So back in November of 2022, the province of Nova Scotia amended the Municipal Governments Act to allow municipalities to enact market levy bylaws. The amendment also rescinded, however, the existing bylaw. Right? So from that point forward, until municipalities got to the point of enacting their bylaws, the previous levies that were in place, that included throughout the town of Yarmouth, and that those were all rescinded. And so that was a reduction of income that was coming in to YASTA that they haven't received. And so because of that significant reduction, YASTA had some pretty decent reserves built up back at that point. And over the last few years, instead of YASTA coming to council and asking for increases or to cover, they've actually used their reserves to cover the shortfalls that have taken place from the levies. Going forward, and you know, for years to come, once these levies are in place, the income that it will generate should certainly offset, I guess, where they're at right now, and get YASTA back into a situation of actually not only being able to support what they're doing, but also to help reestablish those reserves that they have used. So I just wanted to make that point of where we're at.
Thank you.
I would also, after having discussions with our CAO in regards to this, that it does make sense, if we are going to do this, to put this through the 2024-2025 budget instead of moving it into the new budget coming, because these are expenses that did take place during that period.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Digdon?
Thank you. I don't know if those cameras are just trained on us over here tonight or not, but it seems like we're doing most of the talking. I honestly feel as though tourism is a win-win situation for everyone. People will say, well, it's just for you know, for the people that have the bed and breakfasts, or for your hotels or motels. That's not the case by no means. A lot of businesses benefit, a lot of communities benefit, and you know, goes on and on. I have no trouble making the motion, but like I always do, I look towards that gentleman there to see if we have the money to make the motion, and then go from there.
Thank you. CAO views.
Wow.
I'm gonna need some coffee.
Just calm down. Thank you, Madam Chair. The answer is we have a surplus. We don't know the exact amount right now, but we do have a fairly substantial surplus in the prior year. So the answer is if this is in the interest of council to invest in this one-time request, and I do say one time because that's what it is, certainly the surplus would absorb that. On the topic of surplus, whatever is remaining will certainly be brought into the discussion of the 25-26 budget year, because I know we've seen some adjustments. And so, as you all know, we have set aside funds over the years that deal with the rainy day. And so we're hopeful that that the additional costs in the new year will be absorbed in part by that surplus as well as prior year surpluses. That will be it'll be an option that the council will have in the discussions of 25-26. Long answer to the question, you do have the money for 24-25.
Yes, would have worked.
Yes, would have worked.
Go ahead, sorry. I'm losing my filter as I get tired. Go ahead,
I
Councillor
guess
Digdon.
those signs didn't come in yet that we're supposed to hold up
Right.
and that, but anyway, yeah. I will make that motion.
Okay.
Second that for 21,000.
So the motion on the floor is that we, and it's been seconded, we approve the core funding request, the one-time core funding request of $21,000, and it is reflected in the 2024-2025 fiscal year. So it was moved by Councillor Digdon, seconded by Deputy Warden Sonia. Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Thank you.
57 as short-term rentals.
57?
50 are active as of today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil.
Okay, second reading, Cummos Hill rezoning. So we have, do you want to speak? I don't know if I have the words anymore.
Just say you.
Bye. Oops. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, so the earlier presentation was public hearing was for the second reading, so, so now it just needs a motion to approve it.
Anybody willing to make that motion? Moved by Deputy Warden, seconded by Councillor Boudreau. Any other questions or comments on that? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion carried. Thank you for sitting through all of that for us. Yes, go ahead.
No, it's for the next one, I can explain.
Okay. Yes, we are on the very last one, so non-substantial amendment approval, drive-through lane adjustment. There is an attachment, and basically, from what I understood, it was just a small change in the development agreement that we've already approved. It's a small amendment from 2 ordering lanes down to 1. So we require a motion for that as well. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Renee.
that's correct, Madam. So Part 5 in the DA states that any amendment to this agreement, whether substantive or otherwise, must be approved by both parties in writing, and we did get a written submission from the applicant, and 5.2, following shall be considered non-substantive matter. And this one would be C, changes to the permitted use of the property, changes to permitted use of the property that are necessary to accommodate features that are subject to approval or authorization by other authorities such as, but not limited to, Nova Scotia Department of Public Works and Nova Scotia Environment. And they had to approve the application, so they approved it. There's no issues. So
Okay.
can carry on.
Okay. Do we have somebody who's willing to make the motion to, okay, it's moved by Councillor Madden that we approve the the amendment to the development agreement, I see you, to, from 2 ordering lanes down to 1 ordering lane in the drive-through. It is seconded by Counselor Bork. Questions, comments? Counselor Surratt.
I can imagine which property we're talking about, but it doesn't say which property we're talking about, so I was just curious, is it the one I'm thinking about?
Yes.
Yes, sorry about that. It's just right next door, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, for the drive-through here.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you, Renee. 12, we have correspondence and for information. So 12A, we have Yarmouth County Trail Development Association Accountability Report. So we get this, I think it's yearly, we typically get this. This explains the work, that they're going to be doing, the potential budgets, the potential funding from each of the levels of government. A lot, and I mean, some of this is in kind because we have a lot of volunteers who work diligently on these trails to make them, as smooth as they can. And our trails are amazing, and we're thankful for that. But this is their accountability report. Are there any questions on that? Seeing none, we have 12B, the Code of Conduct letter. So attached to this is, I feel like this is a reminder that we are expected to do the online code of conduct training, which I've done. It takes about an hour. It's very similar to the presentation that we had. There is a test, there is a quiz afterwards, 20 questions, and you have to do the whole thing before you can answer the quiz. Somebody may have tried to answer the quiz before, but you have to do all of it. So it's a reminder to let you know you have 30 days to complete that. 30 days. Yes, there was a deadline. I believe it's the 30th. Counselor Digdon.
Yes, could somebody send me that again, the letter,
Yeah.
I think I may have deleted it by mistake, the whole
And you have to
works.
go in first, and you have to register as an NSCC student.
Okay,
And that doesn't have, like, you register as an NSCC student, and it takes a day or two for confirmation. It's not easy.
Complicated.
It is.
Been able to do it.
Yeah, it is
Well-
complicated.
at the same time they're sending me that, they may want to extend me an extension. I'm asking right off, so,
But you have to register, and then that takes a day or two, and then you get a course. It explains it, but it is a little bit complicated.
could we do it here as a group?
Can't see why not.
Yes,
Especially for the support part, just getting set up.
that's what I need, support, like emotional support on something like this, because
It's not necessarily the code of conduct you need support with, but getting set up, because it is a little bit complicated.
yeah.
The course has to be taken individually.
Yep.
But if you all wish to do it at the same time, or that you needed help doing that,
Yeah.
we're happy to do that for you and
Yeah.
set you up somewhere.
We could all
Not a
do
problem.
it individually here.
We could all, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but I
Done.
think the key here is you need
Oh,
to be
you
able to
could-
take the test, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so
Okay,
those are
I'm good for that too.
individual
Yeah.
tests.
Counselor Bork.
Yeah, I did the course, I did the quiz, so I never got anything
Neither did
back.
I.
So I was wondering, like, I had one wrong, one.
I expected a certificate or something, but
Yeah,
no, I
that's
didn't
what
get
I thought,
anything
so I was
either.
just wondering, yeah,
Yes, they give you your score.
they just
Yep.
told me I had one wrong, that's
Yeah.
all. Anyway.
I had 20 on 20. I didn't, I got it all right. It's funny how we feel the need to say that.
Get her a star or
Oh, gosh, it's the teacher in me, I think. Counselor Foster.
Counselor Digdon took the words out of my
Okay.
mouth. I was going to suggest exactly the same thing. I really like that idea.
Okay, sounds good.
Oh, sure.
Not tonight. So do you want, could that information be resent to, like, is there anybody else who needs that information resent other than Counselor Digdon? Counselor Woodrow? Okay, so could we resend? Yeah, okay.
So the,
They have deleted that.
it's right in the letter.
Okay,
It's- Yeah, you just open your computer and hit the link. That's it. It is, yeah, it's right there.
okay. Next, we have the deed for the Mariner Center. We are now owners. So the deed is there for your perusal.
That's pretty good down. I tell you, they're gonna need to get an extension, I'm gonna be the first one to get something done. Mine's in quarantine.
Oh, that happens sometimes.
We might as well get the deed.
I've had emails that have been quarantined too. It's weird.
Says mine for 30 days.
Oh, there you go. You're going to have to ask for that extension. And lastly, we have 12D, we have Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture response to ADA residential concerns. So I was CC'd on an email, I think it was March 3rd, that came to me. Basically, it was similar to the motion that Councillor Madden made at our last meeting, but the email was going to the province, but I was CC'd on it, and we received a response to that, and I want to read the response, and the personal information is redacted. So you notice there are parts in black. That was, we were trying to protect the privacy of the resident who had submitted the email to the province. So it says, "Dear and resident, thank you for your email on March 3rd, 2025, requesting the department formally redo public consultation on the Argyle Aquaculture Development Area, or the ADA. My department won't be redoing the public engagement process that took place prior to the creation of the ADA. We will continue to process applications received through the initial call for proposals made on April 15th, 2024, which will include a 30-day public comment period. This will provide an opportunity for the public to provide feedback on the specific applications in accordance with the Fisheries and Coastal Resources Act and the Aquaculture License and Lease Regulations. If you would like more information on the licensing process, please visit our website and it lists the website. I have committed to the municipality that we will not be announcing any additional calls for proposals for ADA locations until the first applications are processed. And we have had an opportunity to meet with the municipality of the District of Argyle to identify opportunities for further communication and information for the community. This does not mean a redo of the ADA process. The public engagement on this project, led by MODA and supported by our department, was comprehensive, thorough, and well documented. The purpose of the ADA is to proactively identify aquaculture sites through data collection, stakeholder engagement, and analysis. To suggest that MODA did something wrong by engaging directly with industry to help identify locations for the ADA misses the point of the project. This was clearly laid out in the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, that was signed between my department and the Municipality of Argyle on February 6th, 2020. Furthermore, both the department and the Municipality of Argyle have been very transparent about the objective of this project from the very beginning. It is also important to understand that industry has always had the opportunity to apply for locations of their choosing in coastal waters around Nova Scotia, and that it does not require the designation of an ADA for that to happen. It is through the formal application review process that includes a 30-day public comment period that a proposed location is assessed in accordance with the Act and regulations. This is the same 30-day public comment period that will be used for applications within the ADA. I understand that there are still many questions and concerns from people that live near ADA locations. I have committed to working with the Municipality of Argyle to enhance our communications and information sharing as we move forward. We want to work with the community to answer questions while also supporting the development of a sustainable aquaculture industry. Yours sincerely, the Honourable Ken Smith. So I wanted to read that because I think I'm very happy that the resident did send this to the province, because they're the regulating body. And I know we've had a lot of conversations around that, and we've tried to kind of reiterate that message, but that was the appropriate place to send that request. So and I'm thankful that they did, and the minister did respond. So I wanted to share that with everybody. We don't have any financial requests because budget deliberations are coming. Number 14, are there any agenda topics for our next meeting or notice of motion by councillors? Okay, I don't see any. Question period? Oh, yes, go ahead. Oops.
The municipality has received some questions regarding mostly the FOIPOP conversations. I'm gonna try to address the questions. There were comments, and those aren't questions. I can't address those. So are the FOIPOP requests that are posted publicly free of charge? The answer is, Are the FOIPOP requests that are posted publicly free of charge to those that can see it? And the answer is yes. Once a FOIPOP request is completed, it is public information. There was a second question about how do the provincial FOIPOP requests, where do they go? Where are they disclosed? They are not disclosed on the municipal website, but there is a provincial website that discloses all of these, which inspired us to do the same because that's the right thing to do. Can there be a waiver of fees if the question is in the greater interest to the public? The answer is yes, that is a factor that can be considered by the municipality. The municipality initially makes the decision whether or not that's true. The fact that the person that is asking says that it is isn't enough evidence to suggest that that's what it is. The municipality makes a decision, and that decision can be questioned, and it can be escalated to the privacy commissioner. And if we have those instances, we're more than happy to tell them to get that third-party confirmation. You know, everybody's just trying to do their best here. People are looking for information. They're trying to do their best, and we're trying to do their best to give them that information. And let me be clear, the FOIPOP request is a function of municipal government, and we stand by the rights to the community to get information, provided that the information is requested in a way that fits into the legislation. So we take it very seriously, and we look at the legislation to make sure that we're doing it right. And I just want to make that point clear. There was comment, I think there was a question about the cost of the lawyer being here at the last meeting. What was the cost of that? The answer is nothing. There was zero cost associated with that, and the lawyer is a typical service provider to the municipality on all things municipal legal. You see it across Nova Scotia. They don't attend every meeting. They will attend, depending on whether there are legal issues, they may attend, and sometimes they attend on a quarterly basis to make sure that if there are any legal questions that come up during the course of the discussion, that he or she, I guess in this case, he, can address those questions appropriately. Perhaps not in the meeting, if it's a lawyer counsel privilege, and perhaps later on. I believe there was one more question. Let me just pull it up one more time. And there was some confusion perhaps on who pays for FOIPOP requests, and as it stands today, the Municipality of Argyle absorbs a portion of every one of these requests, and that is appropriate because it is a service that we provide. It's no different than when somebody asks for snow to be plowed or an area to be plowed or other services that we provide. So we do absorb a portion of every request, regardless of whether they pay or not. And I think that addresses the questions in the best way that I can. And like I said, there are other comments there, and that I will leave aside.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Foster.
I had a couple of very quick questions, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
The flooding situation on Highway 3 here in Tuscott, it's still ongoing. I'm wondering if we're going to be able to investigate that situation, or if it's something that needs to be turned over to the Department of Transportation.
Is that what you had? Yeah.
I could answer that question to the best of my ability. I know that, thank you. I know that prior to the motion being made, our Director of Operating Services, Kyle Boudreau, was in touch with the department.
Oh, okay.
So then the motion, just, that was a good thing, right?
Yeah.
So there were some issues with some private properties there that we're still trying to get information on. We are in touch with DOT right now. So I don't have an answer to what's the solution. I did notice on my drive home, on one of these days when it was kind of cold, that here we go again, that you could see that water was crossing and it was potentially freezing. So yeah, we're aware of the situation. Kyle is leading that discussion with the Department of Transportation. As soon as I know more, I'll let you know.
So how do we find out when we make both things happen, that they're being dealt with?
We get we do get a report.
It's a clerk report.
It's the clerk report that comes in, and the motions that we made are on there, and it'll say which ones are in progress, which ones are completed, so we do get a report on that.
And if ever you have a question on something that hasn't been completed, first of all, it should be very clear that it hasn't been. That's the time where it's like, hey, what's the status of this? There are some clerk report issues that have been longstanding, very few, but there are a couple. So I just want to make you aware of that.
And the second question, I gathered from listening to the discussion around the table this evening that the community litter program is in full swing. Are there still funds available, or am I wrong about that?
No, I
Yeah,
hadn't.
no, you're correct about that. Sorry.
No, that's
Madam Chair,
okay.
through you. You're correct about that. There is an earmarked budget for next year, I say next year, we're actually in this year now.
Yes.
And we are looking at a spring cleanup. It's being, the policy was changed recently,
Yeah.
as you are very aware. And applications are coming in. I believe the deadline for that is coming.
Okay.
And so what we usually do is, we've earmarked more kilometer opportunities
Right.
for nonprofit groups. I can't really comment on how many nonprofit groups have registered at this time.
Okay.
But as soon as we get that information, we will share that with you. If it's within the budget, we typically just tell you.
Okay.
If we require more, then we will ask.
So the cleaning that occurred in West Pubnico, where an officer of Waste Check actually went there to pick up some garbage bags, was that through this program,
No.
or that was just volunteers? Okay.
To the best of my knowledge, not through this program. I
So-
could be mistaken.
Has any cleaning already taken place as a result of the program?
No, I believe that the
Okay.
intake is still occurring. Are you
Okay.
saying that it's the 14th, the deadline? Yes, that's what
Okay.
she's writing.
Okay.
She's being silent. She's silently
Okay.
writing.
Okay.
So the deadline is, the first might be this weekend is what I'm hearing.
Okay.
But the deadline for this should happen very, very soon.
Okay,
We'll
very
get you
good.
more detailed information once that deadline is passed.
That,
Thank you, Julie.
yep, thank you.
Okay. In camera, nothing? Any other business? Okay, we are adjourned.